Please take your seats. The meeting is about to begin. Please stand by. We are going on air in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Want to wish everybody a happy Friday. Welcome them to the April 2024 Finance and Economic Resiliency Committee. I'm going to be joined by my colleagues, both elected and city staff. I'm going to hand it over to our city attorney. And actually, I believe your first FERC meeting officially is our full-time head city attorney. So congratulations, Rick. Very well deserved. I'll kick it over to you and then to our CFO, Jason Green, for announcements.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning. Today's meeting of the Finance and Economic Resiliency Committee has been scheduled in a hybrid format with a quorum of the committee physically present and remaining members, staff, and members of the public appearing either in person or virtually via Zoom. In order to participate in today's meeting virtually, members of the public may dial 1-888-475-4499, toll free, and enter the webinar ID, which is 863-6059-5462#. Or you may log into the Zoom app and enter the webinar ID, which again is 863-6059-5462. Any individual wishing to speak on an item must click the raise hand icon if they are using the Zoom app, or dial *9 if you are participating by phone.
Thank you. I have a few announcements. Item number 30 is time certain at 10:30. Item number 31 is time certain at 10:35. Items 3, 4, and 40 are deferred. Items 2, 11, and 36 will be linked in the heard at the same time if heard today. And item 22 and 38 are linked. It will be heard at the same time if heard today. Thank you.
Thank you all. Why don't we get started? City administration is going to get out of the way a couple important items. Leave that to the finance department to discuss items 30 and 31.
Thank you. Let me just check real quick. Joe, is Brian here yet? No, okay. Our water and sewer financial consultant is here, but trying to wind their way here. So maybe what we can do is, since we are already at 10 past
How about
10,
number 1?
Yeah.
Commissioner Fernandez, would you like to present this? And this is something city staff has a vested interest in, so if you want to chime in on this as well.
It's the credit card thing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is an item that I've sponsored on the agenda to look at costs that the city incurs having to do with online transactions and what we could potentially do to avoid costs, or what options are out there. I see we have our IT director, or Chief Information Officer? Chief Information Officer, Frank Quesada, at the podium to present on this item, and I'd like to turn it over to him. They've done quite a bit of research, and I think they've got some good recommendations for us. So, Mr. Chair, if I may, I'd like to recognize our CIO.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Frank Quintana, CIO with the City of Miami Beach. This is a standing item to discuss technology around the Tyler suite of products that we have, which includes our financial systems. I'm here to report that we are in the process of implementing the utility billing cutover to the new modern solution from the provider. That has been in coordination with Public Works with the implementation of the modern water meters that they're using. And we're at a point now where, in collaboration with our CFO, Jason Green, we have some decisions to make about how we handle the fees for the financial transaction portions. As part of the upgrade, there will be a new resident access portal that will consolidate a lot of billing across all the different ERP type of solutions that we have. And that will allow for a consolidated central shopping cart experience that we're all used to in our kind of personal type of dealings with websites and that sort of thing. So I'll pass it over to Jason. I know that he had some things that we've discussed that he wanted to share, and we can make some decisions.
Thank you, Frank. Yes, this item has been on for a bit to go through a number of items, and actually I think it was going to be closed, but we specifically requested to keep it on this one last time related to this one issue that we wanted to have. So the model that a lot of organizations go to now is you provide a free cost for making transactional payments. So you go online and you have the option to pay via debit or e-check, they'll call it, direct debit from your bank account and as a free charge. But many organizations, because of the high cost of processing charges for credit card fees, are passing that on as a convenience fee. If you go on to pay your DMV bill, pay some of the county, pay some of the state, FPL, most of the bills, those you have the free option, and they have the one that there's a convenience fee for it. Those are quite costly to the organization. That's why many have moved away from providing that as a free model. So we're calling that a hybrid model, which many organizations are going to. That would be a savings to the city. So it would be important to note, this would be start off really in the utility billing area, but we would look at options to implement that in the other areas in which the city collects revenue, specifically in the permitting and licensing area. So on that UB side, you still have the option to come in and pay in cash. You have the option to pay in check. You have the option to pay with a money order. You can go online and pay with a direct payment from your bank account. All those are free options, and any expenses would continue to be absorbed by those enterprise funds. But if you wanted the convenience of using your credit card, I mean, as an example, in my personal life, I use a credit card for everything. I don't care if I'm buying a Slurpee for $1 at 7-Eleven. I do it because I get my 2% back. I use everything I can on a credit card. Well, if you're getting 2% back, you can imagine the extra charge. It's like 3.5% is what's being charged back. So what we were hoping to get is a recommendation here from FERC to go to commission to endorse the city moving to the hybrid model for collecting payments. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, and thank you for that explanation. So just to provide some clarity, if a resident were to go online to pay for one of these bills or one of these fees using, let's say, a debit card or an e-check,
Yeah.
what would be the cost that they would incur?
They would incur no cost. Any
cost.
charges, the e-check is about $1.50 per transaction, negotiated down from $1.95.
And the city would absorb
We
that?
would absorb those charges.
Okay. And
Always a free option. That's
okay.
important.
So residents will continue to have a free option through which to pay their water bill?
Permits, anything online.
Okay, all right. Which is important here, because what we're trying to do is provide a mechanism that remains free for the residents while reducing the cost to the city on other ways of payments that perhaps might be, more of a luxury. And so I'm going to pass it over to my colleagues. I'd love to get the feedback of my colleagues, and thank you, Mr. Chair, for your time.
Commissioner Buck?
Sure. So I will say, as a resident and a user of these services in general, it drives me nuts when I'm charged the convenience fee. And I was initially not super psyched about this, but Jason pointed out to us the anecdote of a developer submitting plans, and we ate the $4,000 of costs based on the plan fee. And then the plans were withdrawn, and we had to refund the fee for the plan submittal, and that was another $3,000 or $4,000. So in the best fiduciary interest of the city, I'm all for it.
I had a resident come up to me the other day and say to me, what are you going to do to help us? Because we have so many expenses that we just can't afford to live in the city anymore. Okay? So, and some people need to pay with a credit card because our water bills are not cheap. And if you have a bad month and you have to debit it, then you're taking that money right out of the account. Right now, they can put it on a credit card, and if they have to pay that 1 month, over 2 months, they have that option. So my vote is no increase and allow our residents to use credit cards, especially right now, given the inflation, the economic situation. This is a tax that I really don't want to support. I'm definitely a no on any additional expenses for the residents. Yes. Oh, sorry, I'm not the chair. But-
Here, I have a possible compromise suggestion, and Jason, you'd have to advise if this is a doable thing. Could we bifurcate it that if you're paying a bill that is, let's say, under $200, we would pay the fees, and if it's anything over, or 300, whatever the right amount is?
I'll let Frank answer it, but I believe that I thought of that. I thought ahead that might be a question, and I believe the answer is that technically no, that's not.
That's correct, and that was part of our discovery, trying to find out what would maybe a good kind of in between in this hybrid model. The rates are tied to the type of payment, so we could classify, let's say, all of ACH together, all of credit cards together, but you cannot do by dollar amount.
If I could add on to that also is, you remember, as an example, I live in a large condominium. Our water bill is tens of thousands of dollars a month, as an example. So you're right. Single family homes water bill may be in a few $100s range, but the condo buildings are quite large.
As a follow-up to Commissioner Bott's question, and a great question, I had asked staff about the possibility of bifurcating commercial accounts from residential accounts. And I believe, Mr. CIO, you all, and I forget your name now. Jason, you've looked into this. What was the outcome of your analysis on that?
I believe that also wasn't. It's either an all or none.
It's an all or none by type of payment.
So let me ask you this. So today, right now, in this example that you have a developer submitting plans online, the fee is absorbed by whom?
As of right now, the city absorbs all credit card fees.
Okay. So the taxpayers.
Correct. And
so we're subsidizing something that the taxpayers are subsidizing, these transaction fees for nightclubs, for developers, for all sorts of businesses in our community. When we could also be providing a way to generate how much revenue save how much revenue for the city?
I think it looks like around $1.2 million a year.
$1.2 million. So right now, the taxpayers are having to put out. I think I would have more concerns with this if we weren't providing an avenue where this could be done free of charge. I don't see what the impact is to our residents if we are providing a way for people to pay with check or debit cards that doesn't incur an extra cost to them, but it gives them the option. If you want the luxury of paying with a credit card, well, then you have a luxury fee. Let's call it that. But you have an avenue to do it for free with a debit card or an e-check. So, but I got my colleague's concern, and I know my colleague Tanya Bott is very creative, and I think she's creating a way.
Bursting with an idea.
Yeah, bursting. Yes.
What about, and I know this is probably a pain in the neck, but what about if you are a resident with a bill of under $300, there is a way for you to get a credit back to a future bill, or at the end of the year it gets rolled over and.
That would be something we would need to explore. That was not part of the discussion.
Right, and as if I can, just also, that would be obviously being discriminatory towards single-family home owners versus residents that live in, which a majority live in condos and things like that, where their bills would be much more than that. And I think it's important to note that, this is common. Miami-Dade County, if you pay a water bill for Miami-Dade County, this is in there. You know, if you're paying your DMV, you're paying, this is a very common.
No, I
Yeah.
understand that it's
Yeah.
standard. I'm just trying to find a solution that sort of hits on all the points. But
So let's do something, because I just want to see if there's any other creative solutions that could be come up here. I'm going to defer this just for 1 month, because I am sensitive to the concern that my colleague is raising. This is an item I do want to move forward with, because I don't think we should be absorbing, up to, 1.5 or whatever it is in cost that developers and these other, commercial interests would be paying otherwise. That's the taxpayers absorbing that cost, and that's not right. So I'm willing to defer this for a month as we explore creative solutions, because at the same time, I'm sensitive to what my colleague, the vice chair, is stating as it relates to unintended impacts to residents who now won't be able, or who might have hesitation using their credit card for these transactions.
Thank you. Here's how I look at this. If you have to bifurcate it, subsidize the residents and then charge commercial interest. Bifurcate the 2 payments, have 2 separate systems within the enterprise system. If Tyler can't do that, then they probably shouldn't be working with us. So bifurcate those 2. We have raised water rates. We've raised sewer rates. We pegged all of our fees to the CPI. And the CPI is incredibly high right now, and I'm sure it's capped. Okay, and I know that as CFO, you want to do the right thing. I get that. But at the same time, we live in a city where we absorb a party of 500,000 people every single day. And what comes with that? Traffic comes with that, dirt, disturbances. So we also are not a normal city. And because we absorb this party, we bring in more revenue. So if we can subsidize small things like this payment system for the residents, then I don't see why we wouldn't. It makes sense. By the way, when I have a senior on fixed income coming up to me and asking me to help them, and I know that in their condo with the state laws governing their condo associations, I can't help them with that. But these small things I can help them with. And so I'm a no for any resident increase, especially this year. I'm just going to vote it down because I don't want to tax our residents unless it's like so minuscule, like very tiny, because I would like a list of everything that we are, I know we said that we're pegging a lot of these fees and expenses to the CPI. If CPI is 6%, are we capping that at 3%? Do we have some sort of MO, Jason? What are we doing with the fees and costs?
Well, it has no impact, obviously, on the credit card fee item, which is what we're discussing here today. A completely separate topic about fees. I believe it's capped, it's the CPI, I think for the upcoming year, it's like 5.7 or something along those lines.
We're raising fees at like 5.7, 6% per year. We can't continue with that. I would actually like to reverse that.
But if I
I would
can-
make a motion.
but if I
A
can-
motion to defer takes precedence, point of order. And a motion to defer ends,
I was
a
talking,
motion
I'm
to
not
defer
finished.
ends
I'll-
debates.
Commissioner Fernandez, will you let me finish, please?
Okay, we
I
have
don't
40
like to be-
items on the agenda.
I don't like to be interrupted. Anyway, I think that we should really look at all of these fees that we've capped at 6% that are increasing across the board, and try to help our residents right now in what I would say is not the easiest of financial times, especially, given the market conditions, the cost of living, the new state requirements across all of these condos. Our residents are suffering. And you know what? We say to ourselves, oh, it's not that big of a deal, a $3 convenience fee. I will tell you that our residents on fixed income, it's a big deal.
Okay. Commissioner Fernandez, do you want to make a motion for deferral? Because I do.
I made a
agree that-
motion for deferral. That takes precedence. Usually when motion for deferrals are made,
I'll second
debate
that.
ends.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, I'm show deferred.
Okay. Thank you. So we will hear that next month. Do we have the team here to discuss items 30 and 31?
Yes, we do. So
Let's get on to that.
Thank you. We'll take up item 30 first, which is discuss issuance of new money, water and sewer revenue bonds, number 30. And I'm going to invite up, we have a team here from our Public Works team, Joe Gomez. We have Brian here who will introduce himself, who's engaged with Public Works. And also in the audience, we have the city's financial advisor and bond counsel when we get to that point. But first, we're going to start off with the Public Works part of the presentation before I take over.
Joe, welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and honorable commissioners. Joe Gomez, Public Works Director. With us today is Brian Mance, our financial consultant, who's going to be talking about the bond reissuance. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Brian to present.
Well, good morning, members of the committee and also members of the public and staff. For the record, I am Brian Mance from GovRates, and I'm here to talk about the financial feasibility of $85 million in new money water and sewer revenue bonds. The city last issued new money water and sewer bonds in 2017. That was about $115.18 million in principal, and that consisted of about $85 million in bond proceeds to fund capital projects, with the remainder to refinance old bond issues and pay for issuance costs. The proceeds from the Series 2017 bonds, water and sewer bonds, are fully appropriated, and the utility is unable to fund certain critical needs projects without additional debt proceeds. A second new bond issue has been in the utility rate and financial plans since 2017 and is now contemplated in 2025. Historical adopted rate adjustments have preserved the ability to issue this second bond issue and secure bond proceeds to fund approximately $84 million in identified capital needs. These adjustments have included automatic pass-throughs of Miami-Dade County wholesale water and sewer rate increases, adjustments adopted per the 2020 rate study recommendations, and automatic consumer price index adjustments in the absence of rate study recommendations. But the local consumer price index increases have actually been, on average, about 5% higher than the 2020 rate study assumptions. No water and sewer rate adjustments above what have already been adopted are anticipated to be needed to issue this $85 million principal amount of bonds, which consists of about $84 million of project costs plus issuance costs. However, $85 million is close to the maximum amount that could be issued without negatively affecting the utility's AA credit rating. Future user rate adjustments will be primarily driven by how, when, or if the city addresses the identified water and sewer capital needs above the $84 million. Here we show a table showing that over the next several years, the water and sewer capital needs identified are close to around $390 million. And FERC has previously been briefed on these needs. The Series 2009-25 bonds would finance the first 2 years of critical needs projects and other projects, which is shown in 2024 and 2025. The implementation of these critical capital needs projects is a public safety priority, and they are primarily replacements or rehabilitations of utility assets. Some of the utility's infrastructure dates back to the 1930s and 1940s, and here you have some pictures of infrastructure needs, and there are areas of the system that have infrastructure that looks like that, and it needs to be proactively addressed. With the financial metrics with the issuance of these Series 2025 bonds is projected to remain strong. We're anticipating that the coverage, the debt service coverage ratio, which I have the definition down here, which is basically gross revenues minus operating expenses, less non-cash items such as depreciation, less administration fees. That's the coverage divided by annual debt service. That's the coverage.
Good. We can skip through that slide.
Huh?
Okay. Nothing for or against you. We just have a robust agenda.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So our recommendation is to authorize the 85. I guess we would forward this to the city commission to authorize the $85 million of this water sewer bonds, which enabled the utility to continue funding critical needs projects that are considered a public safety priority. It doesn't require user rate adjustments above what have already been adopted. And we would also recommend that you perform an updated water and sewer rate study prior to issuing the bonds to determine how, when, or if the city addresses the additional capital needs above this $84 million. For the utility to maintain its existing AA bond rating, the official statement for the Series 2025 should show a fully funded 5-year rate and financial plan under which the utility continues to meet target coverage and cash levels. And you know, certainly you would want all the necessary rate adjustments to, for that 5-year plan to have already been adopted. And that's it.
Yeah, quick question. I'm sorry. Were you our bond counsel or a financial advisor as well?
I am neither. I'm the bond counsel and the financial advisor are separate people. I'm a rate consultant, and also for your outstanding bonds, I've served as a financial feasibility consultant.
Okay.
He's a consultant for the Public Works Department. He's a consultant for the Public Works Department who puts together this, works with them in their capital program and feasibility. Sergio back there is our financial advisor. When it's that time, I'll ask them and I asked him and Lewis to come up, our bond counsel, when I was going to get into the specific transactional parts of what we're requesting.
Yeah, so quick questions. Obviously, these are never fun things to see, but the only way to balloon these expenses is defer them, and they become even more expensive.
Sure.
And it goes from critical to emergency. You know, I am not a fan of deferring critical maintenance. So with this issuance here of the $84 million, is it anticipated that this will lead to a rate increase? And I'm also looking at our existing capital structure, and it looks like we have a fair amount, though I don't see the total principal amounts, a fair amount of issuances done in 2015 and 17 that will actually roll off and mature in 2024 and 2025. So from a net issuance perspective, can we actually, even with this $85 million by the end of 2025, actually be net, have less debt outstanding for this enterprise fund?
Sure. Sergio Masvidal, PFM Financial Advisors. Good morning, committee. Good question, Mr. Chair. So the answer is yes, and the way we've structured, I think the answer is yes. You had a few different questions in there, but the way we've structured, at least initially structured, the preliminary numbers for the $85 million, our target was to not impact the credit rating of the utility, which is currently AA2, and also not require a rate increase. Those were the two metrics we were trying to target here.
Yep.
As Brian mentioned, that won't fund the full capital program, but it will get you the next couple of years funded and take care of some of these critical needs.
Thanks, Sergio.
To your
And
question,
one-
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, one quick follow-up, and then I'll turn it over to my colleagues. I see we have a split rating, AA minus at S&P, but we're on positive outlook. I just saw yesterday, I believe that S&P upgraded the counties, or possibly the cities, the counties, water, sewer. I feel embarrassed to admit I follow stuff like that, but such is life. If we would essentially get upgraded, is that going to material help our issuance costs, or is that just around the fringes?
First off, I'll say I'm glad I'm not the only one that follows this stuff, so thank you. Yes, the answer is yes. I think we've shown the city that we are on kind of the cusp of rating upgrade. In our opinion, we run independent models for the city. We think you're in line for an upgrade. Of course, you have critical needs that need to be funded, a pretty good number. You know, Brian mentioned 300 million plus, but we do believe you could be a good candidate for an upgrade. And to your question, if you get upgraded, you know, each notch credit upgrade probably means 5 or 10 basis points of lower interest rate costs. So yes, that would be helpful.
If I could add a little more context also before we turn on. So a couple of things to know. I have the recent S&P surveillance that was done back in 2023, and just a couple of notes in there that they were related to that possibility of an upgrade, because they say, quarterly, we believe the utility has positioned itself especially well in the near term, and that we can expect rate increases to support debt plans and maintain existing extreme strong liquidity. And I think what they're showing there is they very much observe what we do. And I think to that effect, we believe that we'll be able to issue this $85 million without a rate increase. That covers just the 2024 shortage, And if those that will remember, in the 2024 capital program, which was approved several months ago, we noted that we were $21.5 million short in needs for this year. So this 85 gets us 24 and 25, but we still have another several years in their 5-year capital program of $250, $300 million in needs. When we go to market, when we get our ratings, they're going to ask, how are you going to handle that? Because we see that you don't have the bonding capacity on your existing rate structure to cover that. And that's why this item before you is, once we're asking for, and I'll explain what we're specifically asking for, but we do want to retain it and to return in the fall, not this fiscal year, to continue to engage with Brian for a rate analysis to see what would rates need to look like to actually afford that capital program. So that's one that we want to retain and come back.
So in layman's terms, just for the public to understand, we can tell people what to expect. This $85 million issuance is not going to lead to a rate increase, but within the next 5 years, we do have about $250 million of incremental capital needs in this enterprise fund, and that will likely have to be addressed through a rate increase in the future.
Correct. And the other nuance here, and this is why I asked Louis Ryder, our bond counsel, to be here, is what we're not asking for is an authorization, is not the, to actually issue the debt now and begin the 2 bond resolutions going through the commission, getting an underwriter and such as that. What we're actually requesting to do is a little unique. The city has done it before in the past, and I've done it before elsewhere, is actually, for FERC to recommend to the commission, for us to have the authorization for the administration to execute something called a declaration of official intent in the amount of $85 million of new money. What that basically is, and I'll try to speak it in lay terms, and Louis will definitely jump in and correct me for the record because this is an important nuance, is it would allow me to sign a specific IRS-related document, and what it was, it would set a clock going forward. And we basically would borrow from ourselves, the enterprise fund itself, borrow from our reserves, to let projects move forward. As an example, Pump Station 28 is currently out for bid. That's an over $30 million project. We need the money today to get that done. So in a couple months, it will come to commission, and you guys will authorize, say, yeah, super important project, go ahead and do it. We don't have that money today. By doing that, we can borrow from ourselves, and I will issue later, 12, 18 months, or further down the line. It's a reimbursement resolution. It's a pledge to pay myself back in the future. And Louis, did you want to add anything?
I
got it.
Louis Ryder's Bond Boggs, bond counsel. No, you got it right.
Okay.
And there is no obligation to issue. I mean, if for some reason you decide next year you don't want to issue, there's no obligation to issue those bonds. It just permits you to issue those bonds tax exempt by adopting this resolution now or a declaration and reimburse yourself when we issue the bonds.
And we will then keep track. So basically what we'll do is we'll keep track, 85 million, all the projects, expenditures, and the idea is in 12 or 18 months, we'll have encumbered 40, 50 million. We maybe expended 20, and then we'll decide to issue. It'll be up to us when we do. Obviously, we'll come back to FERC and Commission to actually begin the actual resolutions, but it'll give us some flexibility. Thank you.
And perhaps we actually are issuing in the future at a more opportune time. If I could predict financial markets, my suit wouldn't be from Zara, but hopefully it's in a lower rate environment with an upgraded rating. Commissioner Bott.
I'd like to move this item.
Commissioner Rosen-Gonzalez.
Okay, so for the first 2 years, no rate increase.
I'll address that, and the team will jump in. Is the rates for 2024 will not change based on the existing. We won't have a rate structure for that. It's not anticipated that 2025 either will be. But as you just said, you didn't want any increases this year. So this year, next year, I got you. But for possibility in 26. So we will come back in fall and give you a plan of action of how we're going to execute it. Now, the commission could say, no, we're not going to increase the rates. And we say, great, the capital program's done. We will not be doing that $250 million in work. We will find some other way, but isn't really another way. So so it's important. 24 and 25, there will be no additional rate adjustment above and beyond what's already approved in the ordinance, but it is possible that when we explore this in the fall, that we would be coming back with an ordinance to change it probably for the 26, but we'll look. It could be 26, it could be 27. We will see what we can do to delay them. I pay these rates also. So I'm very sensitive to the also the 365 units in my building as a board member. So we want to do everything we can to obviously keep it as low as possible, but still get this $250 million in very important critical needs and neighborhood improvement projects done.
Question. I agree with the critical needs, and I was very impressed with Joe's plan to address all of them. So, congratulations on the plan. I know we need to finance it. Can somebody explain to me, because we're voting on this right now, and it's not going to affect us the next 2 years, but what exactly, okay, let's say that my water bill is normally 100, what kind of percentage increase are we talking about in year 3?
If I can, this action to request the 85 million will have no change in the existing rate ordinance.
At all?
At all.
The city is absorbing.
It's already in there, the rate ordinance
It's
in there.
already been
The
baked
financial plan is modeled out, and that this 85 million could be absorbed.
Okay, well,
How do
then
you
I'll-
fund the rest of it?
Well, then I'll
it's-
second.
It's a separate discussion for a separate
Oh, you mean the
day.
addition between
Yeah,
the
it's-
difference?
It's basically a mechanism to allow us to use money that we have sitting in our bank account right now that we're not ready to use for future use. I'm not going to do this right, but use money that's available to us now and pay it back to ourselves without charging any additional monies or interest or another bond issue, nothing that's going to go to the consumers. So
Well, it is going to the
Not
consumers.
this.
Not this.
Not
well,
this. It's just a mechanism to let us use the money that we have currently.
Okay, then I'll second it.
All in favor? Alex with us? Okay.
Yeah.
We're good.
I
Yeah,
will- I will
perfect.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. And we'll, if we can, move right into 31. Approved.
Yep, 31. Please,
Let me read it into the record.
Mr. CFO, if you want to go ahead and tee that up.
Thank you. 31 is discuss refunding of the Miami Beach Redevelopment Agency, or RDA bonds, number 31. I'll cue this one up and have my team jump in to add any color commentary, or especially if I'm off the rails a little bit here. So as of right now, back in 2015, the RDA issued the Series 2015A Miami Beach Redevelopment Agency tax increment revenue bonds. As of the end of this last fiscal year, 2023, it was $271,875,000 outstanding. In speaking with our financial advisor and several different underwriters who have discussed this with us, we feel that there's a refunding opportunity. We use the term refunding, but to a layman's perspective, it's refinancing. So again, from a layman's perspective, we have an opportunity to refinance a mortgage. This would not extend it. It would be at the same time frame. It's not a new 30-year mortgage. It would still be through 2044 with the existing outstanding debt it is. We're looking at a net present value savings of $27.1 million, or an absolute value of, over the 20 years, of $37.6 million. So on the net present value, it's 27.1. If you look at the table on page 426, again, this is an estimate as a snapshot. Obviously, when we close, it'll be different, but it's almost $2 million per year in debt service savings for the RDA. We think this is a great idea. We have shared this with Miami-Dade County. They are a partner in this item. I think they're excited to go forward, but there are some nuances that would require a Sixth Amendment to the MOU of the RDA that we have to work through. So this is an item we would not see come back to commission in May. We just get the okay here, and we will continue to have those discussions with the county, but we would like to refund it and save some money.
Yep, just very high level, gentlemen. Help me understand, if we issued these bonds in 2015, 10-year U.S. Treasury was 2.25 or 2.5, and now we're looking at 4.5. How are we saving refinancing into this rate environment?
Sure. Good question, Mr. Chair. Sergio Masvidal, PFM Financial Advisors. I think two things are really at play here. These bonds are tax exempt, so don't trade directly off the U.S. Treasury, but munis kind of do trade off U.S. Treasury, so it's not a one-to-one comparison. The other factor is we issued them 2015 30-year bonds. Now there's 20 years left, so really what we've done is work down the yield curve. So what was a 10-year bond is now going to be a 1-year bond, effectively, is what you're refinancing. So it's really more mechanics of working down the yield curve, and I think the rating actually has improved maybe a notch also during that time.
And again, not in the business, especially as a municipal government, of predicting future financial conditions, but get the premise, understand that. Are we in the ideal rate environment to go out and refinance? Get that we're achieving savings, but would it behoove us to wait a year or 2 years for more optimal rate environment?
Another great question. Unfortunately, like you, I would not be standing here if I knew where rates were going.
Are you wearing a Zara suit too?
It's not zero. I can't afford zero yet, but I'm trying to figure out where the rates are going. I'd be out on a boat somewhere though. But in any event, I don't know, the answer to that question, Mr. Chair. I do know that right now we're in an interest rate environment that's attractive to us. 8 to 10% savings is just stepping back. A threshold level for governments typically to refinance bonds is 3% savings. We're at 8, 10% right now, so that's a really good level. It's kind of a, what's the saying, bird in the hand versus, that kind of thing. We know what we have in front of us now. Sure, we could wait, but I have no clue where rates are going.
Yeah, appreciate it.
If I could,
Commissioner Bob. Yeah.
If I could just add, I'm sorry, very quick to that. Again, just as you said, 8 to 10%. I use personally 5%. I usually, because bankers are always one to talk about refinance. They always want to talk about it. If it's under 5%, it's a lot of times the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Though 3% is a good mark, I like to have 5 because it gives us some flexibility because you don't know where rates are going to go up and down, as it were. So when I see a number that was estimated at this time at 10.3%, it's probably maybe closer to 8. This is a very good deal.
Well, listen, I'm no Joe Magazine, but I did work at a financial firm for 6 years and not doing finance, obviously. But one of the key takeaways, it's not timing the market, it's time in the market. So I think we should do it.
I second the motion.
Okay, me too.
Yeah. Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Thank you, guys.
Would love to tee up Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez on, let's start with item 36 on Pave mobility.
Let me, if I could read item 36 into the record. Item 36, referral to the April 19, 2024 Finance and Economic Resiliency Committee for the administration to provide an update on the LPR parking lot pilot program with Pave Mobility, number 36. And if I can, Chair, we were going to hear 2 and 11, but I think this might be a little separate, so maybe we'll do this and then hit 2 and 11 right afterwards. Thank you.
11 and 2.
Good morning.
Monica, welcome. And as I understand, real quickly, perhaps your last Finance Economic Resiliency Committee?
It is.
I just want to thank you for all that you've done. You were certainly part.
Thank you.
Yesterday, we talked about the great success of spring break. And as we all started before spring break, parking and traffic enforcement was going to be a critical role in that, and you and your team really stepped up to help out on the all-hands-on-deck effort. So thank you for everything you've done for our city.
I thank you. And I leave with a heart full of gratitude. I've grown in this city. I've made it my commitment to serve the residents and the visitors of this city, this wonderful city. There is that symbiotic relationship between who we are and who lives here, who plays here, who works here. And so this was a wonderful stop in my career, and I thank everybody for my growth, professionally and personally. So thank you.
Thank you. And so give us about Pave.
So in the interest of time and for a general understanding of what Pave Mobility does, it's a great system. You've seen it in private lots, and we've all heard from those people that get those notices that says you parked here and this is a violation notice. It's not a citation. It does its work. It counts in and out and compares it to payment and tells you who has paid and who hasn't. Well, not who, but how many and the statistics. The system does a good job. When I compare what the statistics that they provided to what we do, we know that that differential is the disabled parking placard situation, that you can't capture a placard, you can only capture a tag. That situation will improve as we register people with disabled placards, because now their tag's gonna be also in the system. And by the way, because I'm Monica, I have to again tell you how much I think there's a benefit to having an inventory of tags and you know who is here. As you know, my background was from the airport. When we did this at the airport, when we tracked, when we followed up on and we tracked the tags, crime went down significantly because PD immediately knew which tags were at the airport in an inventory. But that's besides the point, sorry. But there's great value to this. The only issue I see is that what are issued are notices that can or cannot be enforced, as opposed to a citation, which goes through the clerk of courts, which are enforceable. So is it valuable? Data is always valuable. Will it generate more revenue? Not necessarily. Does it give us data as to which locations to track closer or enforce closer? Yes, we kind of know that anecdotally, but it is a good system. I don't know how much revenue it would generate. And finally, this is not unique unless they have a unique feature that would exclude them from a procurement process. So that's to be heard. It is a great pilot program, and I think there is value to what they provided us.
I appreciate it. Are there representatives from Pave Mobility that I'd really like to?
It's my item. Can I introduce
please.
it? Because I have a different take on this. So I spoke to the people, the representatives from Pave Mobile, and what this is it's an AI technology on surface parking lots. I'm not in love with the idea, especially for residents. I don't like this Big Brother-ish stuff. But here's what I will agree to. In an area that is primarily, number one, one parking lot in a pilot program in South Beach in an area that and no fees ever for residents, 0 resident fees. And that's what I will agree to under my sponsorship of this item. So I hope that if you guys are okay with this, I'm fine. The idea is, what's interesting is I was told that it's going to absolutely maximize revenue. You're saying it has no impact on revenue. So if it has no impact on revenue, why are we doing it?
So again, and I think we hear from them, the impact on revenue. So getting a citation motivates people to pay, right? If there is a consequence. And so you need to issue that citation, which, by the way, a couple of years ago, the cost of a citation was doubled, because before it was $18, and I'd rather get the $18 occasional citation than pay for parking, right? Now it's $36. So the citation, the consequence is what's going to generate the revenue. And so if they could issue citations, or if in fact we could collect on those notices that are sent. But I think more and more people are realizing that it's hard to enforce those notices.
Come in. Monica, if I were to pick one parking lot, and I don't want to go into like a lot of conversations or any requests about this, if I were to pick one parking lot in an area frequented by tourists more than anything else, an area that it's not going to be hard for us to explain to residents that they need to register so that they don't get charged when they go on a lot where they normally probably park and might not be, paying parking, which lot would you suggest?
So there is a pilot program currently in place, and there are 5 lots. And out of those 5 lots, I believe the most value is on 46th Street between the Eden Rock and Fontainebleau, P71.
Okay, I don't like that lot. I'm going to defer my item until next month, and we're going to come up with a lot that I agree with. I would like one lot, maybe in the entertainment district, someplace like that. I'm not doing that lot.
Entertainment,
Why?
the lots are very small.
Can I speak?
No, would tell you, I need to find a lot. I do not agree with that lot on Collins and 47th Street.
And we
So,
agree with you,
sure.
commissioners. And what we would ask is that in between now and the next meeting that we get together with staff, identify a lot in the South Beach area and come back, one lot.
One tiny
Yes,
lot.
one lot in the South Beach area.
Tiny. It is not one of those big lots.
And then come back at the next meeting, having identified that lot. And just to be clear where the revenue will be maximized, and just to be clear with the committee, we're not talking about issuing notices like is currently occurring in the private sector, which they don't carry the weight of the clerk and all the enforcement procedures behind that. What we're talking about is the county's ordinance was amended a couple of years ago to allow for citations to be mailed. So what we're describing is a program where actual citations issued by the city would be mailed. So they will be fully enforceable. And so you know the pay rate on citations that are issued are 90%. So your revenue is going to go through the roof. I would predict at a minimum 15x, like just at a bare conservative minimum from what it is today. So we would just ask that we have the opportunity to meet with staff, discuss potential, the business terms, what they might look like, identify the one staff, and come back next month.
Here's the lot that I think it would be good. There's a lot on Collins, like a small corner lot. Let's do that one.
I was going to suggest that.
You were?
That's on Collins and 13th, P16. It has 50 spaces. It's always full, very busy.
I'm okay with that lot. I don't know, we're gonna have to somehow explain to residents that they can register and there's no charge for residents on this. So let's take that lot. Let's do this pilot program for 1 year and let's look at the revenue increase year over year, and then we have some data to work with. Are you guys okay with that?
Yeah, and if we're gonna defer this, I don't wanna get into a long drawn out
Oh, no, I'm not gonna
conversation.
defer. I'm
Oh.
just gonna move it like that. Let's
Well-
move it, one
Oh,
lot, P13, 1 year, pilot program.
Can
That's all I'm
I
willing
guess I'm
to do.
confused. I thought we already did a pilot program.
Well, we did a pilot, yeah, but they're not charging on this pilot program,
I can help
correct?
clarify. We're in the middle of a 6-month pilot program. We've collected data. The data, I think, is promising. What I think we're suggesting now is go live on one lot to show that the data translates into what we think it does. And what we need to do is meet with staff between now and next meeting to discuss the business terms of what that will look like. And so that's all we're asking for right now.
So my motion is one lot, what is it called? P13?
P16.
P16, 1 year pilot program. And then we'll look at what they're saying they projected from their first pilot program, look at it in black and white and see what that means. And then, figure out how we're gonna use this technology if we even choose to.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think it's smart use of technology, which I think we always need to be siding with.
Oh, no, I was just saying, and no charge for residents is part of the motion.
Okay, so on that, I just want to make sure, because we have parking bonds. And, how would this impact those bonds that we have that I guess depend on revenue? Would it affect our rating in any way?
I mean, if this is it sounds like a revenue enhancement at no cost to the city, I would only think it being additive to the financial aspects of the parking fund, which is, as of right now, very, very healthy.
But I mean, if we now say, we're waiving the resident parking, which I'm all for. I'm very supportive of waiving the parking fee for residents. Does that impact our bonds?
Oh, if I apologize. If it was that we were going to stop charging residents to park in the city?
Well, and as part of this pilot program, under the motion made by the commissioner.
So
Yes.
there are fees and then there are fees. So I think Commissioner Rosen-Gonzalez was talking about the fee that Pave would pay for their program. I don't know that you were talking about parking fees, but yes, the bonds would prohibit us from doing free parking.
Yeah,
Well,
if I could, maybe it's not the revenue we're generating from the bonds, but we have bond covenants that would likely be breached.
If
If
you
we would
provide
just
free
start-
parking to residents, yes.
So the residents would get the $1 rate.
Correct.
Okay, so when they enter the parking lot under this new program, it's going to generate a text saying, here's the fee for this parking lot, pay, or they have to pay, or it's only for the
This is
citations.
different. This counts the vehicles in, the vehicles out, and compares it to the payment that may have come through Park Mobile, Pay by Phone, or T2, the meter, and then it compares whether that person, so it'll say, okay, this tag was in there for an hour, and it paid $1, so it was in compliance. Or this tag was in there for an hour and did not pay, and then you generate a notice, or if legal, then you generate a citation. So the question is, what does it cost us to have this service that tells us X number of people didn't pay and these are the people that didn't pay?
I have a question on that.
Okay.
So let's say someone goes into the lot and doesn't pay. Okay. The camera, the technology is communicating with Pay by phone and Park Mobile to determine whether the individual has paid or not. And so the person leaves. And so it will have calculated the amount of time the person stayed in the lot. And then we'll issue a violation if the person did not pay.
Right.
Okay. So right now, on the way that we do traffic enforcement, our parking enforcement officer issues a citation. And that's then sent to the clerk of the courts, and the clerk of the courts handle that. With this, what will be the enforcement mechanism after we send the citation? Would that still be through the clerk of the courts? I just want to better understand that for the record.
To clarify, our staff uses what we call an autosite with a ticket issuing machine that's issued by the clerk of courts.
Right.
So it's their system. We enter the information, the system goes directly into the clerk of courts.
To the clerk of courts,
Yeah,
okay.
so
Now, with this technology, what with this technology, it would still be through the clerk of the courts?
Yes.
Okay, and our ability to get payment back and all that will stay still through the clerk of the courts?
Correct, as well as the person's adjudication rights. It would be the same citation that is otherwise placed on the windshield. Instead of the person coming back and finding it on their windshield, they'd find it in their mailbox.
And so I think one of the ways that we could use technology is not only to issue a citation. Does this technology have the ability so that as the individual's going in and it's reading the tags, it can search the Pay by phone or the Park Mobile system to see, okay, is there an account associated to this tag? In which case, it could send a message saying, you're entering this lot, pay for your parking.
Correct. Yes, it can do that.
Okay. I think, and that's part of what's being offered here, because I would want to make sure that I just don't want to use technology in a punitive manner. I want to make sure that we can use technology to be compliance-driven, to help the user achieve technology, to achieve compliance. And so I would want to make sure that if we move forward with this pilot program, that we be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think along the lines of what you're saying, and I'm trying to understand and be sympathetic to Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez's concerns that we're not ticketing residents that may not, know that they're entering these lots. Does this have the ability to essentially bifurcate between residents that are registered through our residential parking program? So if you would go into this P13, I get not wanting to give $36 tickets to residents, but I also don't think we can set a precedent where residents can just park wherever they want on our city-owned lots. I'll get to you, I promise. On our city-owned lots for free. Does it have the ability, so the license plate reader essentially reads a car that enters the lots, let's say they don't pay. If it's a non-registered car, they get sent a $36 fine. Simple. If it is a registered resident car and they do not pay, can we, instead of charging the ticket price, the $36 punitive charge, can we just charge them the fee of $1 per hour each that they stayed electronically?
I gave that some thought. It came up, and I think a potential solution. So the answer to the first part is yes. If folks are pre-registered, we can identify the tag, and if it's a resident vehicle, they will not be issued a citation. With respect to them paying, parking, not paying, and folks not wanting to have them issued a citation, my understanding is that these annual permits these permits for the residential discount are renewed annually. So certainly we can keep track of that data, and if someone didn't pay, let's say 50 times, the city would know this person owes us $50, and when they come to renew their permit annually, the city can charge them the $50 as a condition of renewal.
I mean, I think that's fair because they would just be paying the rate no surcharge or no punitive charge, but they're just paying the rate that everybody else would have to. Let me give it over to you, Commissioner.
Sounds like weird Chinese punitive stuff. You know, if you don't pay your debts in China, you have to ride like the slow bullet. You can't ride the bullet trains and stuff like that. Really, it's true. It takes you like 3 hours. If you pay your bills, you get to ride the bullet train. They give you a grade on your life. Okay, here's what I think. I agree with you. I think for the first year in this program, this pilot program, that what we do is we educate people and let them know you need to register and you have to start paying the $1 on this lot. So it's changing behavior, okay? But no citations. This is, please register. As of such date, you will be charged automatically $1 every time you're on this lot. Or maybe we do that for 6 months. But, you know, ease into it, okay? For people that have been parking there and possibly not getting tickets, I'd like to ease us in. So, that would be part of my motion. No resident citations during the training period. They get a notice that they need to register, and as of a certain date, we will begin to charge them the $1, something like that.
So thank you for that. I'm going to kick it over to both my colleagues, but I'll ask you to consider something. Because we are being incredibly fair to the residents, I don't want to leave the financial projections a lot of revenue that this could generate. So if we are going above and beyond out of our way to protect our residents, to shield them from any type of tickets that would be produced from this, can we think about expanding that pilot to the other lots during this? Because essentially we're going to get that enhanced revenue from commercial vehicles and things like that, and we are in no way burdening our residents.
No. Not in my opinion. I know so many people who just, they jump over to the beach, they go for a swim in the afternoon, they fish, they've done that their whole life. Now they're gonna go onto one of our Big Brother lots and get this auto-generated thing. I mean, I'm not gonna be the sponsor of that. If you wanted to sponsor that, I'll kick it over to you.
The thing is,
and when I get the emails,
that is costing our taxpayers money because
it's not,
we
because
have to subsidize that.
they've been doing that their whole life. Imagine, you know, most communities, okay, you leave Miami-Dade and travel up the coast to Florida, and I guarantee you they're not charging you to go for a swim. And if you've lived here your whole life and you're used to going for a swim in the afternoon and you just go for half an hour, all I'm saying is that I'm not going to sponsor that. I would sponsor it in some areas that are heavily frequented by tourists. I mean, if you want to take this over, then you can. But if we're doing this on several lots for the first year, I'm gonna vote no on it, and I'm not gonna sponsor it.
Commissioner Bott.
I think it's a benefit to us, actually, because the number of residents I speak to on a regular basis who don't know that they can get a $1 parking rate by just registering is insane. And so I think that the unintended side effect of letting everybody know that this exists is great. I would suggest that almost every oceanfront community all up and down the eastern seaboard, I can't speak for the West Coast, but you know, when you get up to New England, people, you know, you have to have an annual permit if you live there, or which is deeply discounted, but you need a permit. Or if you're there for a weekend or a day, it's usurious rates. It's $50 a day or something just to go. So I don't think training our residents, I mean, I hear residents say all the time, I grew up here and it wasn't like this. We never had this problem. Well, you know, we don't live in Mayberry. The city has grown significantly. There's a lot of demand. And asking your residents to pay for, you know, $1 an hour, I mean, you can't get a better deal in life than that. And so what I would suggest, I understand that you're worried about protecting some of our working community, and I understand that, but I would suggest that maybe after this, we could find maybe 2 or 3 other lots that aren't necessarily the one, you know, between the 2 hotels that are highly touristy destinations that we could include to maximize the net revenue gain on this. And then the other thing that I wanted to just add into the mix, Monica, you raised it, and I haven't heard anyone address this, is that normally for this kind of a vendor program, there would be a procurement process barring any unique feature that this program offers. So I understand this is a pilot program so that we don't need to go through a procurement process to explore the pilot program, but deciding in a year from now that we like this, we want to go forward, then we open it up to bidders. unless, Ralph, your client has some kind of feature, as I understand it, that would make this particular vendor unique in a way that would then waive the procurement process. So can you all, and Rick, maybe you can weigh in on this. Can somebody talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, sure. Look, I think it's premature. We have all sorts of proprietary technology that we think distinguishes us and makes us unique in the market. That said, we're not afraid of competition. If you want to go out to procurement in a year, we're the market leader. We believe we provide a unique service, frankly. And so if you want to go out to bid in a year and there's other folks that propose, we're happy to compete.
I'm not on the finance committee, but I just want to put in my 2 cents. I think what the program I think is a great idea. I've been a victim of it. In Miami Beach Marina, they have a similar program at one of the private lots. It's very effective. But I think what we're losing sight of is that this really frees up personnel of the parking officers to not have to enforce that parking lot. They are then allowed to put resources to areas where we know we can't put this technology, and there is abuse of parking, perhaps in residential areas. So, yeah, exactly. And I think this is a great step. Certainly, I'd be in favor of this if it's brought to the commission. I totally support the only $1 charge for residents because it is a pain. But I think this is a great program, and I'm hopeful this moves past.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I had a motion. So do I have
I'll
a second? Okay.
But with the amendment of finding a couple of additional lots that.
After the year. I don't want to start, then I'm not sponsoring under, because, can I explain why?
I thought we just said that for the pilot, we would find a couple of other very touristy lots, like smaller touristy lots that you and Monica could work on. That's what I'm just talking about.
Instead of one, you want to include several?
Yeah, like 3 smaller lots.
Because and if I may through the chair, the thing is, a pilot program, you want to understand well how it's going to work throughout the city. If you try just one in one area of the city, you really don't get a true sampling of the technology, and one lot might not be reflective of the issues in different parts of the city.
Wait, how about this? How about the language be something like with a pilot program with up to 4 lots, primarily focused on tourist areas, mutually agreed upon by Kristen and Monica?
Well, okay, but for the first year, can we only do 1 lot?
No, I'm saying for the pilot program, like let's up to. If you guys can't agree on 3 additional lots, then it can be the 1. In tourist areas that are small.
May I ask a question? Because
Yeah.
there's a pilot program with 5 lots right now. All we're doing is gathering information, right?
You're just gathering.
What we're
info.
proposing now is to go 1 or 2 or 3 lots and go live, right? But it doesn't work yet because we don't have the disabled having registered yet. I mean, we're in the process of registering them. So if you go into a lot, and I gotta tell you, for example, the one on 46th Street, that lot can have almost half of the parkers have disabled placards.
It's a problem.
And therefore, until you get a good hold of the placard situation, they'll gather the information, but everybody that has a disabled placard, it will show you haven't paid, right? And then if you haven't paid, you're gonna get a notice or a citation, and then you have to walk backwards. And I was just gonna say one more thing, and I promise you to be succinct. So, is that there's nothing free in life, okay? $1 is close enough to free. There's nothing free in life, so your parking department, your enterprise fund, does not take any money from the general fund, it actually contributes towards it, right? So you wanna have a healthy enterprise fund so that when you need a garage or you need a recertification, et cetera, nobody worries about it because the enterprise fund has money to fund it. And now we have doubled our reserves, et cetera. And there's nothing for free. I know, Commissioner Bott, you read a book about parking. And so what I would recommend is that you keep it at $1, because come October, there will be an increase by code on parking. So keep it at $1. Still, I think the $1 motivates people that maybe they'll use a bike or maybe they'll walk, because it's not free, but it can't be free anyway. But just to remind you that what we've seen here already in the stats doesn't account for the fact that there are people that have disabled placards still. It will get better as we register and we start citing. So maybe this process anyway, Ralph, would take a little while to work out. The business terms have to be determined, who's gonna pay Pave, right? I suppose it'll be us and not the residents or the visitors. There's already a service charge when you use Park Mobile or pay by phone for visitors, not for residents. So we'll have time, but we have to start the placard situation, the enforcement of the placards at the same time, but we still have to work on business terms. We don't know who's gonna pay them.
Thank you, Monica. And in fact, this could actually save our residents money, because right now, if there's manual enforcement, if they're parked in one of these lots and they get a ticket, that's a $36 ticket. Because we're actually utilizing AI technology, we're just saying, we're only going to charge you the amount for the time that you're parked here, and that's $1 per hour. They don't get that discretion for a parking enforcement. We can't go to code compliance or our parking department and say, well, don't go to the lot at 46 in Collins, because we just don't want to enforce that. So this is just actually asking people to pay their fair share. It's not a lot. It's only the dollar that they're being parked there. And we're actually leaving our residents out of the ticket enforcement. And that will just be for our transient guests that should be respecting our rules and laws. I get not wanting to be punitive. I don't like taxes, but we have 40 items on finance, and they're all spending money. We need to start taking into consideration how we bring money in. And it's not taxing, it's not something that is overly punitive. It is just essentially paying for parking, which is common and standard, I think, just about anywhere.
My item was saving money for the city, by the way, but that one got deferred.
Okay, so 39 items.
Sticker for you.
Okay, so then my motion is the one live lot and then 2 other small lots, Tanya, to just.
Yeah, up to 4.
But they're not going live, are they? You want them to all go live? Can I just see the poor seniors at Edwards and stuff like that? I just can't, I can't do this right. I understand, I know where we're going, I just know what currently is, and I just want to do the pilot
Monica,
program on one lot.
how many lots do we have in the city?
67 or so. I'll say
Okay.
63, we've lost a
Okay,
few.
so are you trying to tell me that out of 63 lots, we can't find 3 or 4 lots that will not impact our seniors unduly or our employees unduly? Just give yourself that flexibility of up to 4 lots. And we can, work on the ones that are more tourist-oriented, less employee and resident-oriented. And again, residents are supposed to be paying $1 an hour by law.
So then can I just kick this item over to you? And
Yes.
you will be the sponsor and
Sure.
you can work with Pave Mobile. Okay, perfect.
Let me also add, just as a reminder, that in what I call the Midwest, which is Middle Beach, but on the west side, that parking is free from 6 p.m. till 9 a.m. And in the North Beach, from 6 p.m. to 8 a.m. So during those hours, we don't charge anyway.
I'm happy to take over sponsor.
Do you want to
Okay.
make a motion?
So I make a motion. Commissioner Bott is going to take the lead on this, work with Pave Mobile, find up to 4 lots. And I don't know.
And do.
And no resident charges.
Yeah,
the first
residents,
year.
residents won't have any fees added to anything, as they currently do not anyhow. And we'll work with communications. I don't know if Melissa or anybody is here from communications, but yet another thing for them to do a big education campaign on, to let residents know that this is going on.
Yep, I just want to be very careful how we word that, because I don't want to breach our bond covenants. So we cannot provide.
No,
Yeah.
it's not free parking.
Right, it's not a fine.
Any service charge.
Yep, perfect.
Can I say one thing? I don't want anybody to have public record of like me going in a lot and paying or not paying. I mean, you have to really think. I would really like you to only do the one lot, please. Please, Commissioner Bott.
Kristen, we have 1,800 cameras in our city as it is.
And nobody's watching them, that's fine.
But they're
I
going
mean,
to be, like, this is just where we're going. This is life in the universe now.
I mean, I just don't want this to be a situation where people are dropping off their kids at school and getting a violation, or they're going to get a bagel and they're getting a violation. And that's where this is going. So, I mean, I'm willing to be.
Kristen, they're not getting a violation. They'll be charged the $1 they're supposed to pay to park. I mean, those are the laws on our books right now. Why are we tax-paying people and people who throw $1 into the meter, figuratively speaking, subsidizing those who don't? It's the same conversation as why do we let the business owners who do crappy things in the neighborhood get away with things when the good operators who abide by our laws get dinged if they have one sign out of place? Like,
if it was up to me, residents shouldn't pay one penny for parking in my way. Just listen. We should not pay for parking at all because,
Motion
like I
to
said,
defer.
we are. Yeah.
Motion, I mean, we gotta get on with this agenda. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. It's noon, we've only done 3 items.
If it was up to
There's
me,
a
I
motion
wouldn't
on the
charge.
table. Commissioner Bott, do you have the motion?
Yeah, I made the motion.
If I can try to clarify, because there's been a lot of discussion, so I'm going to try to clarify what the motion is. The motion was to move the commission with favorable recommendation to go live and extending the pilot project for up to 1 year for up to 4 lots, but this system, residents would not receive a violation certificate or citation, but will be charged the $1 per hourly rate or whatever the legal rate is.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
I'm gonna back that. I think that's a huge win. We are essentially shielding our residents from any punitive fines.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right?
And also moving Commissioner Bott to the sponsor.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Could we
Can I-
clarify who made the motion and who seconded the motion?
I made the motion,
I'll second.
Okay.
and that's me,
And
Tanya.
wait, and as we do this, I would just like for you guys to explore the idea of, in the future, making resident parking free and having it, we have the benefit of the fact that tourists come here in droves, okay? And like I said, there's a lot of consequences to that. There is crime, there is dirt, there is traffic, there is noise, and our residents suffer from that on a daily basis. And parking is already very profitable. I guarantee you that instead of trying to charge our residents, what we should be moving toward in the future is a no resident parking fee and charging the people who come here and, and dirty and sully our streets and cause us issues. One thing, so I would like you to just consider that, because it's viable, it is an option, and I guarantee you, I don't think our residents should pay for parking. I really
Vice Chair,
don't.
Yeah, that's a broader conversation.
Well,
This
I know,
isn't-
but we're having it.
Yeah.
No, I would just say I will
We really need to
definitely
get through some of this
consider
stuff.
this, but that is a
For
different
the
topic for a
record,
different.
I just want the record to reflect, based on whatever information we get from this, I had asked a while back from the city attorney for legislation on this, on free parking, depending on what the outcome is of
Yeah.
revenues for the city. If we can subsidize it, then we should be offering it to the residents if it doesn't affect our bonding.
Great.
I will
Let's move
review
on.
that with the parking director, but I believe she said that our parking covenant says we cannot provide free parking at all. But we will look at that. We will see if we could amend that in the future, but I think that's all that we have.
Amend it, and I will co-sponsor it.
Thank you.
I don't think we can
We-
just do
just-
that.
we can't do
just
that
one
now.
point of
Dr. Jacob, if
clarification.
you're out there, I'm gonna get free parking.
Just a point of clarification, and we can move forward. The reason why our bond covenants prohibit us from giving free parking is because the parking fund, the monies are the collateral. You could change that maybe in the future. We'll move forward.
Thank you. Please call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Show the motion passed.
Is unanimous? Okay. I'll show it as passed as unanimous. Thank you.
Okay, please, let's move on.
211.
And all, I'm just urging, I know this is important stuff that we need to discuss. We have 40 items because all we'd love to do is spend money. But let's try and keep this concise.
2 and 11?
Yes, 2.
So we'll continue with the parking theme. I'll read item 2 and 11 into the record. 11 was discuss a comprehensive view of the city's park enforcement efforts. Item number 11, to be heard with number 2, discuss potential reinstitution of residential parking permit decals in lieu of current system, which validates residential parking zone permits based solely on license plate scans. Number 2, and this is an item that was returned for a very specific part of the discussion. Thank you.
Commissioner Suarez Ito.
Yeah, hi. This was my item, sponsored by Commissioner Fernandez. Co-sponsored. Yeah. Our parking enforcement can't be everywhere at once. But you know, what I realized in every neighborhood, everyone's very territorial over their parking. And what a better way to have community policing than have our residents be able to determine if there's a car parked illegally in their neighborhood. And so this is why I wanted to bring back the decal system, where it essentially creates a community initiative. If there is abuse of parking in residential parking spots, the residents can call parking enforcement and possibly get the car cited and towed. You know, we used to have this program, I think 9 years ago. It was excellent, and we had a lot less problems. And since 9 years, I believe we had three license plate reader cars that apparently don't work. And in my opinion, I don't think is as effective as concerned residents in specific neighborhoods that when they come home from work, they can't find parking, and they see all these looks like out-of-town cars. That person's going to be a little bit more vigilant on parking enforcement. So I'll let Monica bring it home.
Commissioner Magazine's going to be happy with this because this was bifurcated. So the recommendation was already made to take to full commission to bring back the decals. I want to remind you that there were 67,000 visitor passes purchased last year, and that those cars will not have decals. So it's not 100%. But that's a discussion really for full commission. And this was bifurcated just to show the staffing now. The issue for decals goes to full commission as approved at last FERC.
Well, thank you for being a great steward of our time, Monica. Much appreciated. So is any further discussion needed, or are we fine moving this head to full commission? Commissioner Fernandez.
I don't think that
There's
no action associated with this, so
update.
I'll just make a motion to accept the report that's placed in the agenda.
And I want to say one thing, and I want to congratulate you. If you look at our staffing, you will see that there was a movement to go to more part-timers and fewer full-timers. That's not really good for morale. It doesn't give a growth path, and we're now, again, more full-timers than part-timers, and we're successful, so it works.
And through the chair, that was a priority, one of the priorities of the past fiscal budget processes, to go back to those 2019 numbers. Now we're back to 30 full-time budgeted positions.
Right, and actually even then, we were working on growing our part-time, but in this day and age, nobody can live on part-time employment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does that take care of both, 2 and 11?
Well, I made a motion to accept number 2.
They're the same, basically the same update.
Yeah.
Yes. We'll show that closed. Thank you.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, I mean, if we break things down by average, we're actually moving along pretty well here. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you.
Why don't we move on to number 14? Commissioner Bott, do you want to present this? Discuss funding for South Florida Safe Haven baby boxes.
Yes. I have a prop. Don't worry, it's not a baby. I'm putting on my fire department hat because Deputy Chief Digna is not here. She is interviewing, and so I get to present on her behalf. Hang on a sec, let me just find my pages. All right, so the notion here was that there is a service called Safe Haven Baby Box, which allows people to have a safe way to provide for the care of an infant that they can't care for. And it just seemed like a kind of a no-brainer. In researching this, Digna was able to educate me on what actually goes on in Miami Beach that I didn't know about, and I bet most of our residents don't know about. But the idea is we want to be able to provide anybody, whether residents or visitors or people just passing through, an opportunity to provide a safe haven for a child that they can't care for. And so in lieu of doing this program, the Safe Haven Baby Box program, which would require putting holes into existing buildings with these, like basically putting a bank deposit box, one of those external deposit boxes that you see in banks that look like this, that are electronically created, create a warning so that the fire department shows up within a couple of minutes and takes the infant. It turns out that all of our fire department facilities actually have that service available without the need of a different box. So there are kits that look something like this that each fire department facility, every fire station has. If you need to drop off a child, you can either make contact with somebody who works in the building so that you know that the child has been picked up and cared for, or you can just leave the child and not make contact. But this service already exists in a slightly different configuration, so we don't need to reinvent the wheel. So I guess, I don't know what the right thing is, but I guess close it or withdraw it or...
No,
Oh, hi.
Hey, how do you do?
What happened to the North Beach parking item?
Done.
Mr.
No,
Chair?
no,
No, that wasn't.
it's, that item hasn't called yet.
Oh, it hasn't?
No.
Oh,
Mr. Chair?
That's what was going on, okay.
I just want to, even though this is already being handled and taken care of, I just want to thank you, Commissioner Bott, for your caring heart, for thinking about this and making it an item on the agenda and drawing, attention to this. So just want to thank you for that.
Well, as the sister, my late sister was adopted at the age of 6 months, and she would have been far better off in life if this had been an option for her. So hopefully we'll never need it, and I believe that we have not ever had any babies dropped off.
We have not.
But it's good to know that this is something that we as a compassionate community provide.
Yes. And is the information on the city's website, or is this information shared anywhere in case?
Throughout the county, it is actually a statewide law for the Safe Haven. Captain Mark Schwartz, on behalf of Chief Abello, unfortunately you cannot be here today. It is a well-known program that any person in need of that service can stop at a fire station. The placards are on all the front of our fire stations, explaining that we can take a baby with no questions asked. We can also provide medical care for the mother if she does need that, no questions asked, as long as the baby within the first 7 days by law, with no abuse or anything like that. We can handle the situation. Currently, City of Miami Beach, I believe we go above and beyond what this box, basically putting your baby in a box. We have boxes in the front of all of our stations where that the person presses it, goes directly to dispatch, notifies us. We're there within minutes, if not seconds, to start caring for the child if need be. Years ago, Chief Abello asked me personally when she was in the EMS division, what do we do for these children when they're dropped off? Other than just wrapping a blanket and taking them to the hospital. At that time, more my wife, who had the pleasure of putting together boxes that has the full care need for a patient at that time, can be addressed. And I think we've done we've never had an incident where a child's been left, but if it need be, we would do very well at this without having to install a box in the front of the station. Some of the concerns for that is there's a large cost with it. A recertification cost yearly. We don't know if they're storm rated, tested for the buildings, especially one of them being Station 2, which is a EOC center. Another one is, the anonymity of somebody dropping off a baby, I think is kind of negated because we do have cameras all over our stations. But the ultimate is, being able to provide a safe place for a mother to drop off a patient. It is it is out there and known.
Captain, you're doing God's work. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And Commissioner Bott, thank you for bringing this to light in our city. Truly commendable.
Thank you, Captain Schwartz. I didn't realize you were here to speak on this item, otherwise I would never.
Well, if you had any
I didn't take
questions.
this off and go back to being just a regular Tanya.
So-
But thank you.
So is there any action that needs to be taken on this?
Chair, it sounds like the program was already implemented by the fire department, so.
Where we can handle this and care for it, I believe so, yes, without any
Yeah, it'll be
concerns.
implemented by the fire department, and we'll just show the item heard and closed.
Perfect. Now, I'd like to move on to item 37, and then also I want to be respectful of our colleagues' time that is here visiting, and then after 37, go on to Commissioner Dominguez's items. Sorry, I skipped over a few. That's what you get for being quiet and respectful, unlike the rest of us, you know. So item 37, Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez, do you want to tee this up, discuss taking, I don't want to step on Rick's toes. Go ahead, why don't you introduce this, Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez?
Well, in the past few years, what we've seen in Tallahassee is legislation created just to punish, like punitive legislation for our city. And many times I thought that we weren't represented by the right people. I know that there's 2 or 3 top guys in Tallahassee that you need to know in order to get certain stuff done. And I don't think we're using those people. And while we were fighting, not this session, but the previous session, somebody said to me, you know, if you, at that point, you know, you really needed to have the governor's ear. You need to know X person, and we were absolutely not working with that person. And so I would like to figure out who those people are and hire them so that, you know, we have our own lobby. Because, you know, you have a few developers who are creating this circus, but we are many people, okay? And crowdfunding, you know, with greater resources than any of them are willing to put into this. And I think we need to have the best lobbying crew possible, and we don't right now. Means, you know, listen, there's a couple top Republican dogs, let's face it. And we have I hate to make this partisan, but our lobbyists are Democrats in a one-party, what's become essentially a one-party system. So we just need to diversify and allocate funding.
Commissioner Swart.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Along with Commissioner Fernandez, I had a good crash course in Tallahassee politics this last 2023 session, or 2024. And, you know, there was one item that I was really championing was the no anchoring overnight bill. And we had a lobbyist, or we still do, Ron Book. He's been a lobbyist for, I think, a certain number of years. And I had the unfortunate opportunity to experience what kind of mercenary Ron Book is. You know, we had a situation where another third party, a resident in Sunset Harbor, retained Ron Book to lobby for the same bill that we were lobbying for. And at the very end of the session, when we had an issue with one specific senator in the Rules Committee, after it had passed every single other committee, Ron Book was basically lobbying for that one other individual in Sunset Harbor and totally forgetting about Miami Beach and our needs and what would have affected us greatly as a city overall. There has been many situations where Ron Book has had a conflict of interest with other municipalities. I mean, I understand he's represented both sides of an issue, which I think is egregious. And I think it's time that we move forward, and we move forward with someone who's going to be loyal to Miami Beach and care about the needs of Miami Beach. You know, I understand he might have been very powerful at one point, but things have changed, and there are more powerful players in Tallahassee that I believe deserve a shot. And you know, I would like to terminate that contract with Ron Book and move forward with finding a new lobbyist at full speed, because we want to get ahead of the 2025 session today. I mean, we have many issues with Live Local, anchoring, you name it. And what I've found out is, what the lobbyist fees that we pay it will pay dividends down the future if we have really good, solid representation in Tallahassee. So this is I'm very passionate about this, because I think that if we have the right representation, we can really succeed in Tallahassee, and we can actually have our voices heard instead of shouted down to.
No, thank you, Commissioner Suarez. Question, is there somebody from city staff that we're able to liaise with? I have a question, and then I'll kick it over to my colleagues. Jason, is there anything that would prohibit us from engaging with multiple lobbyist firms? Because where I'm at, if long-term we say the power structure has changed, I totally can buy into that argument. We need to recruit the top players, totally buy into that argument, and I'm supportive. I think we're paying about $50,000 per lobbyist contract. That's just third-hand information that I have. I haven't verified that. But where I'm essentially going with this is, if we feel as if we need better representation or additional representation for a sum of $50,000, let's do that. But where we've just lost internally who our lobbyist is in Tallahassee, I think we need all resources available, and maybe it wouldn't behoove us to essentially terminate a contract now, but I'd be all for adding an additional contract to give us as much juice and leverage in Tallahassee as we could get.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Chair. So I could just on a couple of informational parts of that. So we've been under contract with Ronald PA since 2021. They have it's a joint team with Rutledge and Encia, which has, I think, been with the city for over 30 years. So they're two in there. The current fee is around $107,000 split between the two of them. So that's probably where you're getting that $50,000-ish each. The lobbyists that we've had over the term of that contract have been successful financially. We've, between grants and direct appropriations, the city has won or been awarded grants up to $83.25 million. So it's definitely paid for itself from that financial perspective. The contract is currently under an extension that it goes through November of 2024 with one additional extension. So whatever the purview ends up being of the commission, this contract will be out for reprocurement, probably would be a procurement within 12 months anyway, because there's only one additional extension. So if there's an interest to terminate for convenience, I think it's like 30 or 60 days. If it ends up going down that line, I would recommend that at no point do we never not have any representation. So if there was direction to reprocure, we could go through that process and simultaneously wait so we have a handoff.
I appreciate, but
you
I
could
guess
definitely
where I'm
have more than one lobbyist. I think it's very common on a medium and larger.
That was a long yes or no answer.
Sorry, I just want to add a lot of context to that.
We're going to use Monica as an example here. Quick and to the point. I guess that's where I'm going, especially with Marcia leaving. I'd be very hesitant to even terminate an existing relationship. It doesn't have to do with like the overlap, but it's just, okay, we have that. We kind of need all the hands on deck that we can get in Tallahassee, and I'd be fine adding an additional lobbyist here. Commissioner Fernandez.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I'm of the belief that we want all hands on deck. As many people that we can get on our side representing the city, especially in a complex environment like Tallahassee, where you have so many people from so many different parts of the state with so many different interests. It's to our benefit to have as much representation as we can, especially when a lot of this is relationship driven. You have a new Speaker of the House going in. You want to make sure you have people that have relationships with the Speaker. We want to make sure that we have individuals who have good relationships with the chairs of the committees to avoid situations like what was experienced by our colleague with the Rules Committee, or good relationships with the governor's office. So I'm all for expanding the pool of lobbyists that we have. I agree with you, Mr. Chair. I think that when we look at our funding history, the West Avenue project, something so important. We were able to get $10 million from the state for that. For Fire Station 1, another essential necessity for our community. We were able to get almost $11 million for that. There's been other flood and adaptation projects that we've been able to get $35 million for. In North Beach, we've been able to get Resilient Florida grant dollars that amount to $10 million. We've gotten money to update our gravity sewer mains from Tallahassee in over $7 million, and that's been with the support of our existing lobbying team. But clearly, municipalities and home rule is under attack in Florida, and we have special interests that are circumventing local government and going to Tallahassee to preempt local rulemaking. And we need all hands on deck and as strong of a team as we can have. And certainly we strengthen our position by as many lobbyists that we can have representing our city, our residents, and our taxpayers. Thank you.
I also hand it over to Commissioner Bott. I also understand we have public comment I'll take, but where I'm at is I'm going to be supportive of taking action to allocate an additional funding in the realm of $53,500, which seems to be the common element for both of those lobbyist firms to go out and hire an additional lobbyist. But let me hand it over to my colleagues for comment.
I know that we have public comment, but I would suggest that I would like to make a motion, but I would not like to limit the funding. I just want to, we don't want to spend $5 million on this necessarily, but let's not make any predeterminations before knowing what the best options are. So I make a motion to move it
You're
to
persuasive.
be additive.
I'm sold.
I'll second that.
Yep, go ahead, Commissioner Suarez.
I'm in favor of expanding our pool of representation in Tallahassee, but what I'm not in favor of is keeping on a certain firm that that made the choice to have a conflict of interest and sweep under the rug our interests over someone else's. I think once you've breached that trust, that there is no going back. And then this particular firm, Ron Book, has done this on many occasions. And I don't think that having that representation is good for us. In fact, it might even be negatively impacting us, because we don't know what maybe we do, but we don't know what other conflicts of interest, for example, for developers. We don't know if developers are paying on both sides of the coin for this lobbying firm. And so, I think when we hire someone to really represent us, we want someone who represents us, not us and a possible conflict of interest. And so, like I said, I'm totally in favor of bringing in fresh blood for representation in Tallahassee, but this individual made the choice to sweep aside our interests over another $50,000 check that was given to him. Okay, and so I'm hoping this comes back to the commission, and we take action on this.
Yeah. Well, either way, I don't think that this item is for termination of any type of contract, but go ahead, Commissioner.
I would like to terminate and get new lobbyists. No offense to the guys from Rutledge, but I think there's also a conflict because he's been coming before us and asking for money for the homeless trust. He also has a company that comes in and bids on contracts during when we have emergency stuff. This company, Ashbridge. So there's many reasons why I think that we should. And in addition, right now, we have a pending $1 million that's supposed to go to his homeless trust. But if we took that $1 million and we gave it to Judge Leifman to finish his hospital for the homeless, that facility instead, that would benefit us way more. So I have an item pending, I believe with legal, don't I? Have an item pending to reallocate the funding for Ron Book 2, the $1 million for the homeless trust. Wait,
No,
for
let's
the
stick to
Leifman facility.
yeah,
Okay,
let's
I would
stick
like
to
to
this
move
item.
to terminate and get new lobbyists.
Well, that's not what this item, I don't think we can just arbitrarily put that on.
Well, we can put it on to send it to the commission and see what the commission says, terminate the contract and add additional lobbyists. And lobbyists that are gonna be loyal to us, lobbyists that are not gonna be playing both sides, lobbyists that are really care about Miami Beach. I wanna know that we're represented the right way.
If I can, there is, as far as I know, and Rick will correct me if I'm wrong, there's a motion and second on the table to move this to the commissioner with a favorable recommendation to procure additional state lobbying services. I believe that's the motion on the floor.
That is
Right, and
correct.
this item wasn't about any I have no idea what, about that.
Just bring an item, Commissioner Suarez, bring an item
Yeah,
to the
bring an
next
item,
meeting
sure.
to terminate, and I will support it. I'll co-sponsor your item to terminate that contract. If maybe Rutledge wants to come back in some other capacity without Mr. Book. So I will vote in favor of Commissioner Bott's, was it your motion,
Yes.
Commissioner Bott?
And
Seconded by
yeah.
Fernan?
Can we open it up? I believe there's one caller that wants to speak publicly.
Yes, we have Mr. Daniel Seraldo. PJ, if you could please unmute him.
Yes, thank you. Hi, Commissioners. Daniel Seraldo with the Miami Design Preservation League. I've been up in Tallahassee the last 2 sessions, and I wanted to give a special thanks to Commissioner Fernandez, who was up there quite a lot as well. I think I attended 5 of the 6 committee meetings where they were discussing the preservation ordinance, and I don't believe our lobbyists spoke at any of them this year. And so I have to say I was quite disappointed. I don't want to go into whether a lobbyist should be fired or not, but I would suggest that if there is a process to get additional lobbyists, perhaps we can find lobbyists who really have zoning and preservation expertise, because zoning is complex. It's different from grant funding. And so having the same person do both probably isn't a great idea. Hopefully whoever is there next year can speak at the meetings, can explain why certain bills are bad, because we really need that help. It shouldn't come down to commissioners and activists only being there. And so I thank you. I think it's a good idea to look into this further. Hopefully we'll have more support if things come back next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Seraldo.
One additional thing that I didn't appreciate is, I flew up to Tallahassee on taxpayer dollars, and Mr. Book scheduled meetings and did not include me in any of those meetings as a commissioner. And I found out after the fact that, for example, I'm not going to say who, my colleagues had been at meetings, I was not invited to them, so I was just sitting there twiddling my thumbs, wasting taxpayer money, and I hold our lobbyists accountable.
Well, I'm happy to have that discussion of an items brought. I've personally never met the man, never spoken with him. Not prepared to move on whether to retain him or not. This is about providing additional funding. I think we need all hands on deck, especially as we're going through an internal transfer. Commissioner Fernandez, then we're going to call for a vote.
Thank you, and certainly Daniel Seraldo played a very instrumental role in a lot of these committee meetings. The one thing I would say is that the real work happens outside of these committee meetings. It's great to show up, and we do show up and we speak at these committee meetings, but we really need our lobbyists having the relationships behind the scenes, opening doors and facilitating lines of communications before those committee meetings happen. Because unfortunately, by the time we make it to those committee meetings, the reality is that a lot of these legislators have made up their minds. And while it's important to go on the record, most certainly on the issues at the committee meetings, at that point it's somewhat ceremonial, because if our lobbyists haven't reached out behind the scenes beforehand, that's really what matters. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Fernandez. So, Commissioner Bott, we good with the motion on the table that we're not going to limit the funding? Thank you for bringing that to light. Yep, call vote.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We'll show it unanimous. I believe Commissioner Gonzalez
Yes.
agreed with this
Yes.
item.
Commissioner
Thank you.
Dominguez, thank you for being so kind, patient, and a model of citizenry. Go ahead, tee your items up.
Thank
Which would you
you.
like to go on to first?
Yep,
If I
thank
could
you. I
just-
have
just
three
read the item.
items.
If I could just read the item for the
Yeah,
record, I'm sorry.
read the
Number 8,
transportation one first,
Thank you. That's number
then the math.
25, okay. Item 25 will be next. Discuss funding a full-time permanent bicycle and pedestrian safety position, number 25.
Thank you very much, and let me just pull up my notes here. So this item has a co-sponsor, I believe it's Commissioner Fernandez, and it was brought by the Transportation Committee. It's been discussed in the past a few times. And it's basically asking for help in implementing our bicycle pedestrian master plan and ensuring the completion of the bike network that was envisioned in the city's master plan. It was strongly supported and recommended by the Transportation, Parking, Bicycle, and Pedestrian Committee, and it will work with various city department stakeholders to adopt the best practices for bicycle pedestrian safety. It directly addresses the residents' concerns about safety raised in resident surveys by improving the infrastructure and projects to safeguard bicyclists. It adopts and innovates urban mobility best practices, and it enhances collaboration with FDOT and Miami-Dade County. And will my colleague, Commissioner Fernandez, do you have anything to add? And I'm not a committee member, but you can move the item and we can get a vote.
And I probably moved the item for you, Madam Vice Mayor. I want to commend your leadership in prioritizing pedestrian safety. Our transportation master plans put a big focus on pedestrianism. But we truly can't be a pedestrian-oriented community unless we do focus full-time staff on pedestrian safety. And while we have these contract positions, it's not the same as having someone full-time in the city focused on pedestrianism, especially when we're engaged in so many projects up and down Miami Beach and so many capital projects and more to come. I think West Avenue, we were all, many of us were at the West Avenue Neighborhood Association, and this topic came up there, pedestrian safety. You go to 41st Street and you meet with residents and businesses in the area. Pedestrian safety is a big issue there. You go to our beach walk, one of our best and most successful public spaces. And the recurring issue you hear from residents, whether it be in Mid Beach or South Beach or in North Beach, pedestrian safety. And so while in the past we've had a contract position, and while I know staff will say we still have money in that contract, it is to the benefit of our residents and our city to have a full-time position. And so with that, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to move Vice Mayor Dominguez's item.
Excellent. Thank you for this. And Matthew, if you want to come up, just because I know you've been integral in this as well. Fully supportive of this. I do think that we need to progress with how we view urban planning and things like that, but I do think that this also needs to take on an urban planning-esque type role, especially if this is going to be a full-time position. April 16th, next city headline, New York, and you are not going to find me saying many things. New York City did this, let's emulate it. But this is going to be one. New York City's new Office of Livable Streets aims to make streets safer, greener, and more habitable. So it's not just providing safety for pedestrians, providing safety for bicycles. This is about creating spaces that pedestrians can share in, that is improving our downtowns, our walkable urban areas. So I'd really like to see not only this role, but an expansion from just thinking about it of how can we make sure bicycles aren't crashing in with cars or pedestrians aren't being hit. Turn it over to Commissioner Bott, but I'd really just like to see an expansion of the thinking hat for this position.
Yeah, I have convened a little in-house working group to deal with the bigger issue of micromobility, so pedestrians versus bikes, e-devices of all sorts, and it would have been really great. Jose is in the group, and Matthew, and folks from code and communications and police enforcement and public works. I mean, it's a real cross-functional team, and we're pulling together some recommendations that will be presented at the next public safety meeting, the next neighborhoods committee meeting, because this is a huge problem going forward as people use e-mobility, including bicycles and their feet in all sorts of ways. And as we've discussed at length, there is the fact that we don't have accident reports about near misses doesn't help us. So to have had somebody, in addition to the different disciplines, sitting at this table with us yesterday and going forward to take a look at things holistically, who has an expertise in this, best practices, rather than just a consultant who can vet a project once it's been developed, or, do things in an ad hoc way. I think it's really important for our city going forward. You've heard me say a million times, we need to plan for the city that we want to be, not just the city that we are. And I think this would go a long way, because nobody has any idea of what to do about these bigger issues. And as with so many other things, we in Miami Beach could lead by example if we crack this nut in a good way. So I am in favor of this as well, and I'd be happy to move it.
At last FERC meeting, we heard it a million times, so this is about 2 million.
Okay.
I always want to provide for public comment. I think Wayne Roberts has his hand up.
And then you can call the
PJ, could you please let Mr. Roberts in?
Thank you very much, Joe. I just wanted to articulate my life experience with transportation and public safety. I'm old school, I realize that, and it's a new world, but when you talk about New York City, it brings some fear, because what liberal policies relative to the idea of bicycle lanes and pedestrianization of streets has created a traffic nightmare. The minute they instituted this, you could traverse Manhattan in 20 minutes in the old days, and now you could be stuck for 4 or 5 hours in a car or a taxi. And we have limited space. Streets are limited. You can't create land. And my concern is that we get to a liberal policy of pedestrianization and create a traffic nightmare for Miami Beach. So please, we need to create safety. We need to create opportunity for pedestrians and bikes, but we can't overtax the traffic as a result. That's the only point I want to make. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Always appreciate you following along in your input in our city. Commissioner,
if I can, I know if it has anyone to add anything, but if I can, what might be helpful looking at the memo and having a discussion with Jose there is, we have this as outsourced. If there's an interest in bringing internal evidence, speaking with Jose, staff does feel that there is a need in the transportation department for internal. And if this is one of their specialties, but I think there might be an interest in not necessarily being specific to only this activity, about 40 hours a week work, because we're always very cautious. We are very cautious when we look at adding to headcount and recurring costs. But if maybe some flexibility is allowed to add, to make it a priority during the 25 budget process, to add additional staff to the transportation department that would include these type of services. So perhaps an employee that could be found that could do these things, but also have other things that could be doing. Jose?
Yeah, if I may, Mr.
Yes,
Chair.
thank you.
I think the correct thing is, what does our transportation master plan prioritize? What mode of transportation?
First and foremost, pedestrians.
Pedestrians. Okay. Do we have anyone in our city, any full-time city employee budgeted for pedestrian safety?
Not at this time. No.
Okay, so our transportation master plans prioritize pedestrians, but we have no one dedicated to pedestrian safety. I think with that, I move my item. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, is there a second? I'll second. Call the vote?
I think we're all in.
Yeah, all good?
All right, we'll show it unanimous going back to the commission with a favorable recommendation to prioritize in the 25 budget process, a permanent bicycle and pedestrian safety position in the transportation department. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason, am I
Yep.
able to go for the
Oh,
second
I'm
one, for the
so sorry.
math?
Let me add, yes, let me, I
Yes,
apologize. Let me
the
say
max,
number 8.
and then
for
we're
the
going to
record.
take Sophie's item.
Number 8, discuss an appropriation to purchase and store access mats to be used to create accessible paths for special events held on the beach. Number 8.
Okay, so this item came up when some folks at Rebecca Towers, south of Fifth, complained that they weren't able to get into the beach, and if there was a way to get mats or access to the beach in different parts of the city. And I read through the city's recommendation, and the cost is $64,000 in order to get 2,100 linear feet of mats available and storage. So how many locations would 2,100 linear feet cover?
It would cover quite a bit, and just as a point of reference, we used the 2023 Seafood Festival, as well as the 2024 Pride Festival, as an area that encompassed a lot of the beach. So we think that 2,100 linear feet is adequate.
So to me, it sounded like way too much, and I would be happy to cut that in half or a third of the linear feet in order to test it and see if people use it. And then if they do, we can look at expanding it, but maybe just test the waters for a lower quantity. And so my colleagues, so what I would like to do is to have this considered in during the budget cycle at half or
1,100.
Yeah, half of what the so about $30,000, so that people with disabilities or seniors can access the beach during events and things of that nature. So if somebody on the committee can move it,
I'll move
I'd
your
appreciate
item,
it.
Madam Vice Mayor.
I'll second it.
I like the strategy. Throw out a number and say, I'm only doing half. I'm like, yeah, I'm all for it.
And it was a small amount. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Now, I also had a BTR item, and I had confusion. Is that going to be heard today, or is that?
No, that was, that item was meant to be in May.
Okay.
Remember, we list
So then
everything
my
on our
last
agenda in the pending section, so after item 41 and beyond are all pending for future dates, and they have
Got
the
it.
date at which they'll be heard. I know you're still working with Manny on that draft
I had,
ordinance.
yeah, I had, Manny and I had a nice meeting about that already. I was good to go, but I understand that for May, and then I'll make that a priority. So I have one more item, I believe.
Yeah, and number 8, we're going to show this going back to commission with a favorable recommendation to be considered part of the 2025 budget process for
As
the
amended.
For the purchase and storing of access mats as amended for the $half value. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Did I have any other items?
I don't think there was any other items that were listed in the email that I saw.
Nope. I think those were the.
Oh, right, because the other one was deferred.
820, yep.
Thank you so much.
Commissioner Fernandez, can you please proudly introduce item number 23?
And I absolutely will, because item 23 is an item that I bring forward truly very proudly, because we are in Earth Month, and we need to be aware of the needs of our environment, of our natural resources, and this commission. I'm so proud of this commission, of all of you, my colleagues, that have prioritized our environment in everything that we do. I know, for example, one of our colleagues, Commissioner Suarez, has said it so many times. He looks at every item from the optics, from the lens of the environment. And I know so many of us have seen the importance of it. And this item relates specifically to awarding a grant to Clean Miami Beach to implement more cleanup efforts in our city, but not just cleanups, but also engagement with our schools, engagement with our community and other organizations. Mr. Chair, Sophie Ringel is here representing Clean Miami Beach, and I'd like to recognize her to make a presentation.
Sophie, welcome. I think we all echo Commissioner Fernandez's words. You as well do God's work. I'll ask you to really get the message across, but be mindful of time as well. I want to give you the spotlight that you deserve, but I think you're going to have strong support up here.
I appreciate that very much. Thank you so much. Hello, Commissioners. My name is Sophie Ringel. I'm the founder and executive director of Clean Miami Beach. Thank you very much for your time and attention today. This presentation is a request for $45,000 for Clean Miami Beach. When I moved to Miami Beach, I noticed so much plastic along the dunes, and I had to do something about it. So I started to pick it up. And then I took the trash challenge a step further. I was loud about the plastic pollution issue and started to inspire so many others to join me. Before I knew it, Clean Miami Beach was born. Those first cleanups turned into a movement, and Clean Miami Beach took on a life of its own, leaving increased awareness, educated citizens, and tangible results in its wake. Today, I can proudly say that Clean Miami Beach has hosted 332 cleanups, removed over 100,596 pounds of trash, and inspired over 13,601 volunteers and educated 4,605 students. Quick question, are you seeing this slide? Yes, you are, perfect. The city is making a strategic investment that will yield substantial long-term results. This investment isn't just about numbers, it's about sustainability and creating change. The city's investment in 12 public cleanups, EcoFest, 10 classroom on the sand sessions, 10 microplastic art workshops, and 5 high school presentations. Our flagship initiatives are public community cleanups. What sets Clean Miami Beach apart is its exceptional capacity to mobilize large crowds for high-impact cleanups. 1,200 volunteers will be engaged and instilled with inspiration and satisfaction in 2024. We do exceptional work. Though unquantifiable, Clean Miami Beach reaches and teaches an amazing number of local citizens through newscasts, social media, panel discussions, webinars, printed materials, and through tabling events. Additionally, EcoFest is an exciting and educational experience, bringing together 5 organizations, 11 sustainable vendors, 5 to 10 political leaders, and 350 passionate individuals. Clean Miami Beach expects that our 3rd EcoFest will create even more participation and positive impact.
Sophia, and what is the date for that EcoFest?
That is Sunday after Art Basel Falls this year on December 15th.
Amazing. You're such an amazing partner of the city, and especially the school and education outreach opportunities. I believe I've personally seen each of the commissioners up here at various of your events, so something we're all familiar with. Is there any commissioners that had questions on this?
I'll make a motion to support this grant. I think it's we get such a large return for this investment that we give to Clean Miami Beach in so many different levels. The way that we're portrayed in public, the way we engage with the community, the way we educate children from a very young age. And the only thing I'll say is let's make sure that is focused throughout the city, including areas like North Beach and all of that as part of that. So
second.
With that, there's a motion and a second, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, certainly as cliche as it is, but show me your budget and I'll show you your priorities. And we put our money where our mouth is in Miami Beach, and the environment and sustainability is clearly what we're looking to push forward, and I think this is reflective of that. So thank you all to the colleagues. Let's call a vote. All in favor?
If I can just to check with the motion. So the motion is, this is a new grant, because I know there's already grants. I know Amy's here if you had questions, but maybe not. There's already grants for this organization. This is for a totally new program. And this is a request for a one-time grant of $45,000 to be prioritized through the 2025 budget process, I believe, just to check with the motion maker.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So there's a one-time grant, $45,000 for this program to be prioritized. Okay, thank you. And then the vote.
Excellent.
Aye.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Happy birthday.
How about we get to item number 18? Commissioner Fernandez, this is the lease between Moonlighter Fab Lab. Again, another fantastic educational. No, you know what? I'm
Mr.
growing
Chair.
in my role as chair. I caught myself. Please, please introduce your item.
No, actually, I mean, I think we've all seen the item, and it's almost 1 o'clock, and I think the meeting is scheduled to go to 1:30. So I'm happy to move the item unless anyone has questions on the item.
I'll second. Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I'm going to support this, but I have a question about the community benefits.
Yes.
Where would the opportunity be to discuss a recalibration of that? Would it be now? Would it be between now and
Well,
commission?
I think now would be the time to, if we want to make changes to community benefits, so that we send an item to commission that has the recommendation of the committee on it. So,
Okay,
yeah.
I don't want to take up a lot of time. I just want to say, let me just pull up my notes here. Hang on 1 second. I think it's a great facility. I'm supportive of keeping it available and, helping it grow. I would like to see an enhanced community benefit. I know that I've connected some not-for-profit organizations looking to do projects, and it hasn't worked out. Sometimes it was because they weren't able to do the scale, the size of what was being created, which is fine. But other times it was an issue with cost. So I obviously need these folks to be able to support themselves. I'm not asking them to give things away for free, but maybe when it's a not-for-profit organization or school that's asking for a special project or for help, the cost of the materials used is what's charged, and there's no additional charge for the time spent or the use of the equipment or whatever. I can't imagine that this facility is booked solid all the time, so the space is there, the people are there, the equipment is there. So I would like to see that incorporated.
So what is the actual request?
So that
Concise.
if a school or a not-for-profit organization comes to the facility looking for help on a project, so not an ongoing class or something like that, that the cost of materials is charged to the organization, but that any usage fee, membership fee, time spent to help create and fabricate the project is not charged.
So that's for schools and nonprofits.
Yeah.
Perhaps what we could ask of Liz and the departments between now and it coming back to commission, because I could see very easily, schools have a number of student clubs and that type of stuff, and it could become a very regular basis, where you start consuming the staff time and the time of the facility. So perhaps we could ask Liz to work with them on establishing, maybe a cap. A pool of hours or a number of opportunities.
Yeah, it
that
was
can
really
be
more
used
an
for that.
ad hoc project basis, like, we have an opportunity to do X, can you help us?
Right.
As opposed to like an ongoing project.
Right, and perhaps Liz,
Yeah.
I think it's a great suggestion. I think it makes the item better. It helps our community more, and I'm happy to ask Liz to incorporate that.
Thank you.
One other thing.
Well, you're the vice chair.
Oh.
You're recognized, Madam
Uh-oh,
Vice
you
Chair.
mean I can call any item I want right now?
The chair's
You missed it. You missed your opportunity to recognize yourself.
I heard that from the back and I ran up here. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, stop it.
Whew.
Charter schools, private schools, right?
I
All schools. get the-
I think that's what our
Tanya,
colleague mentioned
okay,
was
so-
schools. She didn't differentiate between one school or the other.
Okay, then that's good.
Correct.
You know, and get as many benefits as you can out of them, because it's $1 a year on Miami Beach, 8,000 square feet. It's really ridiculous. I don't really understand the business model so much. I'm assuming it's a great thing for STEAM. You know, I'd like to go and probably see it, you know.
And I think
Is this
also-
the best use of this land? It is absolutely not. I would really like to have that activated in a better way, but for the next couple of years, fine.
Kristen, just saying for $1 lease a year, you could park for an hour.
There you go.
You know, and there's a number of STEAM programs and opportunities for the students in our community. There's a number of free community events. Nonprofits are already using it as well. Also, I mean, like Clean Miami Beach uses it, and they've been repurposing what they collect from their cleanups and making it into art. It really is quite fantastic, and maybe we can explore opportunities for our seniors, our senior residents that like to engage in creative activities. So the item's been moved and seconded, I think.
Can I say one more thing?
If again, just for the motion is to move the commission with a favorable recommendation with a request for additional public benefits directed towards our schools.
Schools,
And
nonprofits,
not-for-profits.
and seniors.
Schools, okay.
Can I ask a question? As part of this contract, are we looking at how much money are they grossing per year on our dollar lease? Do we have access to that? Are we asking for any financials? Are we asking for anything? Because maybe they're grossing a couple of, you know, they're not making any money at all?
I don't think so.
Well, I would like to request access based on, if they would like the $1 a year lease, we would like to see their financials too. They
And-
should provide us, they should provide us a
I'll tell
financial
you,
statement,
I
an
met-
audited, a simple financial statement.
I met with them,
That- yeah.
and I think they were doing rounds, and I hope they met with all of you in December. You know, I don't want to speak for them because it's not my place to speak on their behalf. I don't know that we would be able to keep this great service here if we really charge them a true rent. And I think this is one of these investments we make in our community. Is it the best use of real estate? Probably it's not the best use of real estate. If we look at that area, it's a commercial corridor, probably a restaurant or some type of nightlife establishment like what used to be there would probably be the best use of retail space. But is it a good service for the community? I think undoubtedly it's a great service for the community and the educational opportunities that they're doing with students in Biscayne Elementary and Treasure Island Elementary and North Beach Elementary. It's just the community return is great, even though it's not the best maximum use of the retail space.
Well, look, sometimes the best, highest use is not the most financially rewarding. But, you know, we have a motion and a second. I think we should just call the vote and move on.
Wait, I just want to say one thing. All I'm saying is, in the future, when we do these things with nonprofits, we should look at their financials, and we should have some sort of accountability, like measuring somehow.
I
what we're getting.
met with them, and they shared that information. I think you should meet with them as well.
I haven't met with them, so
I
I
think
don't
you
know.
should, yeah, I think and by the way, you'll be impressed with what they offer, but I think it's something that they can share with you when you meet with
Just,
them.
I am actually working on an item to discuss that very type of accountability for things, grants and contracts and stuff like that across the board. So
Yeah.
rest assured, it'll be coming before you at some time in the near future.
Program management. Right?
Commissioner
I think I
Spores?
took a course.
But just
in-
want to say, my son goes there and he loves it, and it's
Oh, he does?
yeah, it's
Okay,
it's
okay,
a good-
okay, fine, then we'll do it, but you know, you just want to make sure.
Well, then we should maybe not.
Yeah. All right, call the vote, please.
Yeah,
Or
and then-
is this
and
calling
just-
the vote?
Yeah, and just for the record, again, it's just the favorable recommendation, the request for additional public benefits for nonprofits, seniors, and schools. And I know Leslie's already reached out to talk with Elizabeth about ensuring those beefed up school benefits you could assist with.
That's what I was going to add, that Leslie negotiate our educational benefits for us. as
And
part of the
I'll
process.
make sure that she works with Liz to make sure that happens. Thank you.
Okay.
All in favor? The vote, there's technically, we have to do the vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Show of favor, passed unanimously. Thank you.
Excellent. let's move ahead to item number 21. Commissioner Suarez, do you want to go ahead and tee this up?
Sure.
Those are the last two ones on roll call.
As three of us up here, we spent a whole year campaigning across the city of Miami Beach. A large part of that time was spent in North Beach. And one of the things that was very common and apparent in North Beach was that there's a huge amount of abuse in the parking areas near where residents live. And I've heard all sorts of complaints, and I've seen it firsthand. There are short-term rentals, Airbnbs, that actually list free parking on their ads, and I'm about to show you some. There are county visitors that come who don't live in Miami Beach, who understand that North Beach has parking, free parking, and can park anywhere in North Beach while they go to the beach for the rest of the day. There has been a growing trend of commercialization of North Beach parking, thanks to the Turo app, where people can have multiple cars and they can Turo them out on a short-term basis, as basically acting as a rental fleet. And unfortunately, the parking area in North Beach is used as their parking lot. Lastly, as we all know, there are many, many developments going up in North Beach, many of them slated to be short-term rentals. And it's only a matter of time before the parking situation and abuse in North Beach gets completely out of hand when these developments go up. And so I'd like to pull up on the screen some of the things that I've seen, and residents have actually sent this to me. Resident sent me this. She said this car's been there for a year, parked there. Okay, yeah. There's a one, she sent me this. It's a license plate from Texas. It's obviously a rental car. Another one, again, what it seems and what I've heard and what I've seen myself is that a lot of people use this as just a parking lot for their cars, their second or third parking cars, or their third cars, and they leave it there unattended for a significant amount of time. I went on the Turo app just today, and you can see a map of where people are actually renting their cars. And this is in North Beach. And if you look over here, that's parking. That's free parking in North Beach right there. That's one of the areas that would be in the boundary of what my item is going to propose. Another issue is Airbnbs. You can see in this Airbnb, they have where it says with free parking on the premises. Okay, another Airbnb, beach, ocean walk, free parking, pet friendly. And so, there was, believe it or not, there are some very toxic individuals in our community who do not care about residents or their parking, especially in North Beach. They only care about pushing extremist political ideologies. This particular person uses misinformation and fear-mongering to confuse and misguide residents. And let me explain. So let me read it for everyone to see. This particular post alert. City Hall plans to impose a new tax on your neighbor. You're going to have to pay to continue to park on the street. You may be towed. Why? Because 2 new commissioners you probably did not vote for, Magazine and Suarez, known as City Hall as the Bros. In good Spanish, porque les de las, I don't even know what that is. In this new iteration of the plan, they have been very careful to carve out the areas where they have vocal supporters, namely Town Center, Allison Park, Parkview, and apparently Beatrice Drive, and ignored all your pleas. Below, see the gerrymandered map of area in red to be taxed in orange excluded areas were initially included as well. Town Center and Parkview Island are now out because of political favors to loud supporters there who have demanded to be out. So get this, Beatrice Drive, who lives in Beatrice Drive, as well as 72nd Street, Galbit would not want his Airbnb guests to be bothered. Don't be mistaken, this is retaliation against the lower income communities that do not support them and their MAGA gospel. Of course, there have been no surveys, no interviews, no grassroots meetings, no consultation with those affected. The North Shore Alliance, which is the new neighborhood association for the area, has been ignored. Last time this came up in a city committee, they put up a fake neighbor to call in to defend their proposal, but the poor lady got all the mixed up with the streets, the distances, and the locations, and just made a fool of herself. This is where we are, commissioners creating fake personas to defend their unpopular policies. Let me continue.
Just in interest, David, or I'm sorry, Commissioner Suarez.
Call me David.
Let's hand this over to Monica. I don't want to spend time dispelling this person because it's not factual.
That's fine.
But let's address a few points, if you can, Monica. Are there areas carved out? Are there, go back to what it said, is there special interest on Beatrice Drive? Beatrice Drive? I can't see. Can we go back to, did we carve, I had no input into this map. Did you, Commissioner Suarez?
No, I simply.
Monica, did you carve this out for any special interest that reached out to you, whether it be Galbit's short-term rental or any special interest on Normandy Drive?
Absolutely not.
Thank you.
If you don't mind me, let me get back to that one more slide because I think this really hits it on the head. And to that, replying to that post, that ridiculous post, you know, obviously a lot of people are in favor of this. And one of them said, I live on Normandy, Biarritz, in a condo, not a house. Most of the buildings here do not have parking since they were built in the 1920s, 1950s. If you don't park by 5:30 p.m., you will not find a space. Beachgoers know to park here on Sundays to avoid paying for parking. Which means if I want to run an errand, I can count on circling around for parking. I've had to park by the community health center or even further at times with groceries to play Frogger to cross 71st Street. I welcome this change because there is so much abuse by individuals who dump their cars here for weeks at a time. There are vans I can identify which are used as storage. Oftentimes, there are cars with fake out-of-state license plates or expired plates with flat tires. I've seen dealerships advertise cars for sale, which I've identified as parked in this neighborhood. There is one person who owns about 6 hobby cars, which use up valuable parking. The old Marina del Rey, aka Normandy Cove, has also increased density in this area and added to the parking issue. As a not 1%er, I will gladly pay the $54 something a year to have a better chance of finding parking. I should add the commentary about exclusions for those with dedicated parking should consider those with only 1 parking space. I emailed the commissioners asking for clarification. I think there should be an allotment for street parking for additional vehicle. So you can close the slide. Look, it's clear that there is a tremendous amount of abuse when you have the word free. And it's about time that we bring North Beach with the rest of Miami Beach. I mean, there are already dozens of residential parking zones. They work great, they're effective, and people love them. And so this notion that we're affecting lower income families, I think is absurd. I think it's $54 a year, comes out to 12 cents a day. I'm even willing to go, for the pilot program, I'm even willing to make it free because I believe that people who live in North Beach are really going to cherish this change. And it's a welcome change. So I would love to hear from my colleagues.
Yeah, I'll give my thoughts, then I want to give it to our commissioner colleagues. I do think we'll have a hard stop around 1:30 today because we possibly could lose quorum. And I also want to open this up to public comment. I don't care about the revenue raising. If we don't charge anybody for the first year, I do not care. I don't care about the towing fees. If we don't tow anybody for the first year, I do not care. I want to do this solely to provide the residents that are doing the right things some sort of method and system to be able to park. There's no data aggregation. There's no registration information that I'm getting. I feel crazy even dispelling some of these things that have been put out there into the universe, but here we find ourselves. How could I go to my constituents in working class neighborhoods such as Flamingo Park and say, you have to do things one way, but people elsewhere, they get to live in their own fiefdom and do things another, right? This is bringing our city into a place of continuity. We have the same type of system everywhere. What would Flamingo Park look like if it was completely unregulated parking? Would that help the residents, our working class residents that live there? Or would it hurt them? Unequivocally, it would hurt them because anybody would be able to park there. And that's the situation that we're seeing up north. I see that every time I visit up there. I saw it incessantly throughout the summertime. I am open to feedback. If I'm wrong, tell me, but I have a hard time saying, well, we should be operating this area completely differently than everywhere else in the city. If there are concerns, I will champion and I will lead those. If it's registration, I will champion, I will drive up there, a mobile van, to sign people up, right, to help them. If it is a language barrier that's being alleged, well, I can't help there, either can my Commissioner Suarez.
I'll help you there.
But I will get my colleagues to help there. Whatever it takes, we are doing this for the residents. So when residents don't have to rush home from work before 5 p.m., or else their areas are taken over with an unregulated parking system, with people that are visiting from out of town taking up our residential parking. To me, this is a complete no-brainer. It is not about, I want people to hear loud and clear, this is not about money. If we need to waive that $54 parking fee for the first year, let's do it, right? Because it's the same amount of money that we're getting in now. This is about creating a better system that our hardworking residents up there can actually have some methodology and some order in their lives to free up parking. I'll turn it over to my colleagues. Commissioner Fernandez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I remember when I served on the planning board, one of the first items that came before us, and actually, Commissioner Bont, we were seated next to each other at that time, was a building that was being developed, that was being proposed on the east side of Normandy Isle. And I remember going at that time to make a site visit on my own of the area. And one of the things that just stood out to me was the severe lack of parking that the residents of that area deal with. You had to circle around blocks. And then the reality is that a lot of it is because of the retail that's out there. A lot of it is also because of the short-term rental that is going on throughout our city. And, when you look at the studies that the city has conducted, there is a severe lack of parking in this part of the city. And Monica, what do the studies tell us? Is there a parking deficit in North Beach? I know for example, in South Beach, we know that Flamingo Park, like everyone knows, Flamingo Park, there is a parking deficit and residents would be at a total disadvantage if we took away the residential parking program because of the amount of outside visitors that would take over that area. What does the study tell us about North Beach?
Good afternoon. Again, Monica Beltran, Parking Director. So this notion or this request is not new, and we have been evaluating it throughout the years. And you're right, Commissioner. There is a shortage that has increased. Now, one of the reasons why one would establish a residential zone is not exclusively because there's a lack of residential parking, because, the residents have to park anyway. But the other things that we evaluate is the intrusion of the demand outside of resident need. So some people were saying, hey, you know, people walk from the beach, they want to go to the beach and they don't want to pay, they come into our areas. And I somewhat dismissed that in the sense how you think, okay, you're going to pay $1 an hour, but hey, free parking is better than $1 or $2 an hour, right? But now there is development that's happening in North Beach. And every single thing that you have described does exist. There are people storing vehicles. Two of those vehicles, by the way, that you mentioned, were towed. And actually, I've never heard from the owner, so God knows. But the truth of the matter is that this has reached a point where we need to address it. And with the new development coming on board, and just the development of North Beach, it's that time to do something about it. And we can make it as painless as possible and as user-friendly and as practical so that people start appreciating the fact that you don't have to be home by 5:30. One of my colleagues in the office, she has to be home at a certain time. She says 5 minutes later, she won't find parking. She lives in North Beach. So I think that there's a lot of misconception about this. We discussed it in the Transportation Parking Committee meetings and actually walked it with one of the members and trying to look, and Commissioner Bott, you know, we've been working with you, trying to find solutions. The truth of the matter is that even speaking to other people outside of the city, they'll say, oh, it's a free-for-all. Because really, you can, if you know somebody in North Beach, you can leave your car and go. So this, from a professional perspective.
Thank you, Monica.
Very recommended.
Thank you. And so I was asking this because I see in the report that on-street parking was observed to have little to no parking adequacy. And, you know, in these areas experiencing parking deficits. So given that problem, there is a solution that's being proposed. And it's not being sold as, okay, we're going to just pass this and we're going to legislate it and that's it. No, it's a pilot. Let's see if it works. We're not marrying ourselves to it. Let's test it. And does it alleviate the parking situation for our residents? And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that because the reality is that short-term rentals do cause a lot of drive-in traffic. And we know that given the conversation we had yesterday about spring break. You know, so many of our problems in South Beach during spring break are not even in the hotels, are people driving in and staying in short-term rentals. Short-term rentals are very conducive to vehicular traffic, and they rely on parking. And how do we restore some of these inventories of housing and make them available again back into the market? Well, if you make it less conducive for the short-term rental to exist, and you take away that free parking that's available out there, if you limit that supply for them. And so I'm all for this. If we can, during the pilot period, waive the permit fees, that I would be inclined to minimize the impact on the working class, on individuals that didn't have this budgeted for. But I'm willing to give this a try because there is a problem and it is affecting individuals' ability to live and to survive in North Beach.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll turn it over to Commissioner Bott. If I could just follow up with one and then I'll. No, go ahead. Okay. Just one quick comment. Can we expand the map to include this area where these short-term rental developments are? Because what I don't want happening is those developments taking away from our residential parking. If a developer there built short-term rentals without parking, then shame on them, right? They should have thought about that. But I don't want these hundreds of short-term rentals to come in and abuse our parking area. We want to maintain that for the residents first and foremost. So let's include the areas that are in there. Unless there's a staff, reason not to do so, I'm all for hearing that. But if there's areas that are excluded that are being built short-term rentals, these high rises with no parking, well, they should have considered that they're not going to impede on our residents. Commissioner Bott.
Yeah, I I'm gonna have to leave, so I'll just register and tell you how I feel about this. Like all of you, I have knocked on those doors, and I think of Maslow's pyramid. Have you ever seen that, of the hierarchy of needs and everything? And at the base of the pyramid really is like food, shelter, being able to park your car. And when you get home at night, no, seriously, getting home, and circling, the desperation of not having anywhere to put your car is enough to convince me to support this. I would say do a $10 fee. That's it. $10 yearly fee. Hopefully that will cover the sticker, whatever it is. I know that you. So yeah, I would suggest something very nominal, something that nobody sent, like a few pennies a day, right?
Commissioner Kristen Rosen Gonzalez.
Did I just say that?
Earlier today,
$10
you
for
were
the
talking
year?
about the little people of this city who are going to have to pay a transaction fee when they pay their bills online. And now you want to charge them $10 for parking?
Because I'm afraid that it's going to be more than that. I would say the first year.
This is shameful. This is why people are leaving our city by the droves.
I'm glad that Jason is really chuckling. You've really made this.
Alex, you forgot about free parking everywhere in the city.
Look, I would do a free, but if it had to cover something, $10. I think that even a cafeteria worker, for example, at Beach High could afford the $10 a year to be assured of a parking spot, and that's why I said $10 a year.
I think to clarify, Commissioner Gonzalez, I think she meant just moving forward beyond the free period.
Beyond the free period.
Correct.
Okay, so we have the free period and then something attainable, and I do like the regulatory nature of this. This has been ongoing for a very long time, and especially, what is driving me crazy? This discovery of the commercialization of Goodwill and every inch of the city with apps like Turo. I've never even heard of Turo before, and that could just be that I'm a digital immigrant. Are you you're not a millennial, but you are like a generation. You're not Generation X, are you, Suarez? What?
Okay, let's
You're a
reel this
millennial?
in,
He's a
shall we?
millennial,
You guys-
that's why.
You guys, we have a hard stop in 9 minutes, so let's knock this out.
We spend less money.
So how come you're not all
Okay,
these
so
millennials?
if I might, I know that I am also not particularly necessarily in this example, but I am eviscerated on a regular basis by certain voices as well, and I would like to echo my support for the notion behind this. I have some comments and some questions. Parkview Island has to be a part of it. There's no carve-outs. Town Center, Parkview Island, all along Normandy and 71st, that all has to be a part of it. Because we have 3,000 units coming onto North Bay Village. We have hundreds, thousands of units coming online in Town Center without parking. We are going to be building the Aquatic Center and losing those several hundred spots. Ocean Terrace doesn't have parking. We're doing traffic calming measures throughout North Beach, which, while they won't take away 70 parking spots anymore, they're still going to take away a dozen or 20, whatever. We are seeing this beautiful revitalization around the Normandy Fountain with great restaurants where people come in from out of town. And once Ocean Terrace is up and running, we're going to see even more revitalization. We are at critical need in North Beach. I don't care what parking studies have shown. I'm telling you, as a resident there who has the great good fortune to be able to park in my little spot in the basement of my building, or the garage, not literally in the basement, but in the garage of my building, I can't tell you how fortunate I feel because I see this every day. So we definitely need to do something. Monica, you and I have been working on this from a different angle since the week after I was elected, and we are still trying to talk to private lots and facilities like churches to see if we can do something there. However, I have a very deep concern. I think the money, even at $54, is not onerous. I'm in favor of free and a max cap of $10 a year. My very big concern is that there are people in North Beach who live there and work in our tourism industry. They are the backbone of our tourism industry. They are the bar backs, they're, the people doing the jobs that nobody else really wants to do. And they may or may not be documented. They may or may not understand where City Hall is to come in and do the registration. They may or may not be on the lease. They may or may not feel comfortable speaking to people in positions of what they perceive as authority. They may or may not have zero way of getting information about this. And I don't want to punish those people upon whom we rely as a city and have them be the unintended side effect, the unintended consequence of what we're trying to do, which is in service of clearing out the detritus, the people who are leaving their crashed cars sitting there until they're towed, the people who are, there's a guy who lives a few doors down from our building who has these 3 great Jeeps. They're gorgeous, and he rents them out. And those 3 Jeeps are sitting there taking up parking spots. So I get what we're trying to do. I want to hear from you guys how, and you might not be able to answer now, but maybe it's before it comes back to the commission, how we can reach the folks who live there, who will be affected by this, and get them signed up in a non-threatening way, without language barriers, without making them feel like they're going to be reported to somebody, and also to engage with the neighborhood, the North Shore Alliance or whatever it is, because that is one of, not the only, but one of the neighborhoods that is affected. There are others too that I think you guys should be talking to as you prepare for the commission meeting, to demonstrate community outreach, which is critical, to ensure that there won't be costs, to show how it's going to be inclusive for everybody who needs it, who lives here, and how there won't be penalties. Because it's not even the cost of the decal per se, but what if you get towed? What if you live here and you get towed? And and I know you guys are really thoughtful and work with residents when people get towed or ticketed incorrectly, but if you get towed and the tow fee is $250+, first of all, where do you go to get your car back? $250 is, people live paycheck to paycheck. They don't have that. They can't get the car back. Now they go back, they're missing days at work. It's a disaster. So all of that needs to be worked out before I can feel really comfortable with this. But I appreciate very much what we're trying to do here, Commissioner Suarez, and I want to make sure that the residents who are rightly concerned about the unintended consequences are brought into the conversation in a manner that we can hear the concerns, accommodate any issues that we're not already contemplating, and move forward in a way that everybody feels good about. But Parkview Island absolutely has to be a part of this. Town Center absolutely has to be a part of this. I mean, there's really no part of North Beach that shouldn't be a part of this.
So, Commissioner, there would be no towing. That's what we're proposing. Citations will lead people to come to us, and then we will register them and we'll cancel them.
But that's going to be an issue because people don't know that that's a thing that they can do. They might not be able to understand what the citation says. We need to think out of the box on this.
And we are. This is not at all your normal residential zone. There are 20 residential zones already. This has a customer service touch that none of the others have. I mean, it's good customer service when you charge $54 a year and you get extra enforcement and everything. But this is way beyond anything but. And this, I'll ask our attorney, but part of the process to establish a residential zone is community outreach. So whomever's listening, I want them to understand that there will be community outreach, that we took a stab at the boundaries, but they're not etched in stone, they're not established or anything. What we did was we looked at trying to avoid the fact going somewhere else, right? So we encompassed the area. And this is why we're recommending 2 zones instead of just 1, and that is to kind of segregate the pockets for the residents. So that if I live in a part that I don't want to get a residential zone permit, I don't go to town center. You know what I'm saying? So we considered that, and maybe it's not 2, maybe it is 3. And more than anything, very cognizant of the fact that there are 313 spaces at the lot on 72nd Street. When you remove those for construction, plus all the loss on Ocean Terrace, parking is going to be at a premium. And also that, like Commissioner Magazine said, any new development has to contain its parking demand. So that if you built a facility where you got 1.5 parking space per unit, and if you don't have visitor parking, too bad, too sad. You have to contain your demand within your building. So this is actually a win-win. I want to assure the community that they will have a voice. It's required by the process. I'm not quite sure if you could do a pilot without all the processes, but that this is just our attempt at, hey, we're going to cover the city, we're going to exclude the metered areas, and we're going to try to protect so that if I stop at 76, what happened to the people on 75th? Does everybody go that way, right? And maybe we do need, and I envision that we will need a 3rd zone.
So if I might, just to comment on this, there are 2 other things. One is that there's, we're talking about potentially purchasing the parking garage that was formerly associated with the Deauville. And as we move forward with that, maybe you can also, as part of this, talk, I mean, I know that that's in the 60s, people who live up at 79th, or in the 80s, that's not super useful, but perhaps there's an opportunity at peak hours, like from 5 to 7, run a trolley that's specifically going from there to points north, like 2 or 3 points north. So maybe that can be a part of the conversation. And then the other thing is, as retail increases, especially around Normandy right now, and sooner rather than later as the retail upgrades, but there's already existing retail north of the band shell. How can we make sure that people who are working, because those are not high-paying jobs, and maybe they're taking public transportation, maybe they live close enough to walk, I don't know, but if there are people who have to park, how do we account for them, because they're not necessarily residents? So I think there would need to be a survey of those businesses to figure out how best to handle that as well.
So we would make sure that we had the monthly permits in the lots available as much as possible. And that study for the Old Deauville garage merits that study of a park and ride for employees.
I'm not sure I understand that. What do you mean?
So that if you have excess parking in that garage, that some employees may choose to park there at a reduced rate for employees, and they could take a trolley or coordinate some type of transportation to the different workplaces.
Okay.
If I may, I think one of the things that Commissioner Bott raised was the impact it does have, someone that does get a citation, someone that ultimately gets towed, and the impact that that does have on the little guy, that, we want to be a socially inclusive community. And we don't want to, have a onerous impact on those of lesser means. I see that there is a 2-month education and warning period of only citations during which there will be no tows.
No, the whole pilot program, no tows.
Perfect. Okay, I just wanted to make sure of that. Okay, so that it's during the entire pilot program that there will be no tows. Okay.
Yeah, I recommend that because the citations are necessary to get people to come in and sign up, and then we'll take back the citation.
Of course, to drive the awareness.
Not a problem. And I recommend that no tows for at least a year, and then we become more effective as we move forward.
I'm fine with that.
If I can help to assist with the motion, and I'll ask who's the motion in a second, but I believe it's to move to the commission with a favorable recommendation with the boundaries as amended. and that'll be obviously the item that'll go to commission, with the program as presented, which is on page 175 with 9 bullets, but it would, the only change to it being is that it would be at $0 fee during the pilot program. $0, yes.
Thank you, Jason.
move the
I
item.
always, to the extent any possibility we can incorporate public comment, and I believe we have.
Yes, we do. PJ, could you please let Ms. Latone in?
Elizabeth.
And Ms.
Hi,
Latone,
good
you
afternoon.
have 2 minutes.
Hi, y'all.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Sorry, I've been waiting for about 45 minutes. But first of all, I would just like to say that it's not just the town center area. It's not just all of the other areas. It's the entire section of North Beach. We have multiple owners that have, or people that have Turo cars that are buying 4, 5, and 6 and taking up the parking spaces. They're staying overnight in our parks. They're using the parks for free as their pickup points. They're using public garages. They're using drugstore parking lots because they're not being charged there. It is a real problem. And I understand, you know, reaching out to people who may or may not understand English or those kinds of things. But the bottom line is, it's up to us. I mean, if I go to another country, I have to learn the laws of that country. And I also have to be able to understand what the repercussions of me not obeying those laws are. I really do think that we have got to address this problem. And no, there's no telling how long that 72nd Street garage is going to come along. At first, the CRA did not agree with having zones in North Beach, but this has been tweaked such that it's necessary. If there's anything else I can help y'all with, I would love to. This has to be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Could we please allow Mr. Roberts to speak? Mr. Roberts, you have 2 minutes.
I love the term the bros. I'm very excited the bros are on the commission. You know, they bring a whole different view and they bring in this new issue to the commission. I love it. And I love the view of Tanya, and I love the view of Kristen. I think beyond the period of time that it's free, I think it should be capped at $10 because we already pay taxes, right? So there's no reason to charge a $54 fee annually for the administration of that program. I also think there shouldn't be any area that's not in the city that's not protected residential parking. I don't think we should just limit it to certain sections of North Beach. I think Mid Beach, North Beach, we already have it in South Beach, should have residential parking in other than metered after the hours of 6 p.m. I think it is in South Beach. So there's a time frame that visitors can park in residential neighborhoods, and then they have metered parking otherwise. I think you guys are great. I think the communication is great. Also, something that's really lacking is the development of an app or a web page where we can just upload the documents that's necessary to confirm our identity and our car and plate number, so that we don't have to go to the office at City Hall. There's no reason in this day and age that with this technology today that we have to schedule such time to, especially from North Beach all the way down, traverse all the way down to 16th Street to make that happen. You should be able to do that electronically. Anyway, thanks. Have a great day.
Bye, Wayne.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Wayne. So does somebody want to make a motion?
I'll move it.
If I could just weigh in for a second. Director Beltran earlier mentioned that there may be some legal requirements and there needs to be a determination by her that the parking in this area is affected by commuter parking. Then this would go to commission. There needs to be a public hearing, and the commission then approves the creation of the zone. So I just wanted to clarify that point.
And at what point, Rick, we need to do the community before we establish. We go to the commission saying, we want this, right? And then the details are worked out with the community, correct?
Well, as I understand it, there's a public hearing during the commission meeting.
Well, we go beyond, and so we go out to the community and hold meetings for the
Okay.
input in the establishment, particularly of the zones.
Well, that would certainly help to streamline, so I suppose you could do that and then bring it back to commission if
I would
everybody.
recommend that.
Yeah, I think given how delicate this is and nuanced, that I would really strongly encourage you to meet with the community groups between now and the commission. We have a month, so, and you'll stay long enough to make all that happen.
I'd say that we need to reach out to the community as soon as possible, and that when we go to commission, that then we could say unequivocally, this carries the input, and the boundaries have been set with the input of the communities. And I do agree that we're probably gonna need to create more than two. I think it's better to have segmented rather than an all-encompassing, because all you're doing then is moving people around. So that would be my vision.
And Monica, a quick introduction to your colleague?
Oh, I'm so sorry, yes.
No.
Alberto.
Good afternoon, Commissioner
Alberto,
Alberto
big
Ventura,
shoes to
Assistant
fill,
Parking
but I
Director.
assume we'll be talking to you next month on this item, so look forward
Yes,
to
sir.
working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I can, so on the motion I mentioned earlier, I would just ask then, one, I need to know who made it and then who seconded it.
I
And then
moved the
just to allow us to have the clarification, if the city attorney needs to add a little language, if there's anything to be added to that for legal purposes. But to still have that spirit of the boundaries as amended and program as presented with the caveat that the first year of the pilot will be $0. So if I could, who
I
made that
will-
motion?
Commissioner
Alex.
Fernandez, and I will second it, and Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez registered as a yes.
Correct.
So call a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Show unanimously passed?
Yes.
If we can get to number 26, I think that'll just take 2 seconds, correct? I know staff asked that, and then if we have time, we'll move on to first.
Yes, if I could just ask, I think, because we're beyond time, we just make a motion to extend for, we're maybe 30 minutes to 2 o'clock?
Fine with me.
Yeah, it's good with me.
All shown in favor? Good.
Who made the motion?
We'll show
Commissioner
Commissioner
Bott,
Bott
did you
made
make
the
the
motion.
Sure.
Seconded by
Sorry.
Magazine, I believe.
Okay.
Thank you.
Who's introducing 26?
I'll just read it into the record. So discuss potential funding for Young Musicians Unite, Rock Ensemble Program, and we have Dr. Leslie here who will be presenting the item. Thank you.
So, can I just, before you do the heavy lifting, I'm very excited about this. We have an amazing homegrown program. I saw Sammy perform at Churchill's 1,000 years ago. One of his bandmates taught Julia guitar when she was 6, and then she didn't pick it up for 10 years after that. But this is and I didn't know Sammy was now involved with Young Musicians United, so when I connected the dots, I was like, wow, this is so cool. Anyhow, this is a great program as it stands now. The bang for the buck is unbelievable. The amount of work that gets done in our schools and in our community, it transcends just teaching kids how to play an instrument. It gives skills that get transcended into life skills as adults. It gives discipline. Studies have shown that music helps kids understand math better. It's just fantastic. And as we as a city seek to embrace a new direction for our brand as in part an arts and culture city, one of my big things is to have that notion permeate beyond signature events or museums and cultural institutions, but to really permeate the very air and soil of our city. And to me, this is one of the organizations that can help us do it with very small financial requests for very, very, very big returns. No pressure, I'm just saying.
Thank you.
All yours.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. This request is a complement to the existing after-school enrichment that we currently provide in a few of our public schools. The City of Miami Beach has a presence at Feinberg Fisher K-8 and Biscayne Beach Elementary, as well as Miami Beach Senior High School for after-school enrichment. One component of the offering at Miami Beach Senior High School, actually the only component at this point, is a partnership with YMU to provide Miami Beach Rock Ensemble. The current contribution by the City of Miami Beach is approximately $30,000 for that program. The cost for the program is somewhere around about $130,000. I'm sure Sammy will speak to where the other funding comes from. There is an ask to increase the funding for the Miami Beach Senior High School Rock Ensemble for the city's contribution from $30,000 to $50,000. Additionally, there is a request to expand a music program similar to Rock Ensemble with other components to Miami Beach Feinberg Fisher K-8 and to Miami Beach Nautilus Middle School, of which there is no similar music program offered after school. We have reached to the school site administration at all three of the schools that we are discussing potential expansion, and there is an interest by the school site administration to bring this program to those locations. So ultimately, the ask here today is to expand the rock ensemble's presence and a music program's presence as an after-school offering, and the total ask is approximately $70,000.
And there is a discussion as well of having the program funding run commensurate with the school year calendar as opposed to missing those first couple of months.
So that is for the STEAM Plus program.
STEAM Plus, okay.
And you're correct, that is another component of the memo. I did meet with the program manager, and we did discuss with all school-sited principals and all current cultural partners, there are about 11 of them, and we are aware of about 5 of the 11 that are interested in starting their programming earlier in the school year. Currently, they usually enter the schools late October, early November. About 5 of them are interested in starting in September, YMU being one of them, and so we will be doing an amendment that'll come before the commission in May to allow us to start those programs sooner, and that program is moving along well, and we'll do that within the current funding that's available, so there's no change to funding.
And the incremental funding will, for this, would affect how many kids? How many more kids could you?
So by adding programming at Miami Beach Nautilus Middle School and at Miami Beach Feinberg Fisher, we're looking to impact an additional 50 children. The number of children impacted at Miami Beach Senior High School would remain the same.
Okay.
And if I may, through the chair, hi, Sammy. Hello. Dr. Wilsonfeld, good to see you. I believe there's about, what is it, like 500 students in Miami Beach that benefit from the program?
So through the STEAM Plus program, we work with about 500 students in 4 different schools.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. Want to make a motion?
I move this item.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you for all you do for the community. It's
Thank
amazing.
you. If I can, just for the record, so the item will show, move the commission in favor of recommendation to support aligning the city's STEAM Plus program with the school year and the support during the 25 budget process with 50,000.
This is for the expansion of after-school enrichment.
For how much?
$70,000.
For $70,000 to support the rock ensemble expansion.
I just want to be clear that it's the 70,000 plus the 30 we already have, right? So it's the
Right,
rock.
the 30's already in, this is an
Got it.
additional this is an
Perfect.
additional.
Up to an additional 70, thank you.
Yes.
And actually, I know the motion's been passed, but Sammy and I did speak also to the possibility of allowing for charter school and private school children to avail themselves of these opportunities, and we'll be working with Miami-Dade County Public Schools to ensure that that access is there.
Yeah, I think that's consistent with some of the other actions that we've taken.
Mhm.
Thank you, Doctor.
Perfect.
Yep, thank you. Would like to call one last item, number 35, discuss funding and path forward of the First Street project. Joe, timeline here. I know we're on a tight clock, but I also don't want to rush through something so critical. Can I clarify, what is the ask out of today?
The ask today, Mr. Chair, is for us to get a favorable recommendation from this body to move this item to the full commission so that we can proceed forward with the project. And we're going to make a recommendation to you at the end of this to move forward, which I believe, based on meetings that we've had with members of the community, does have support.
Okay, let's hear it out.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna get
Before,
ready.
before you go, Joe, can I ask a point of clarification? I know we made a motion to extend the meeting till 2. That doesn't mean we need to wrap up. It just means the last item had to be called before 2. Is that correct, Rick? Yeah. Okay, perfect.
I'll be your parliamentarian.
We'll note that this is the last item then. Yeah, thank you.
And I'll try to be as concise as I can. Okay, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. All right, so I'm just going to go through the project, the purpose of the project very quickly, the project timeline from the very beginning, the design update. We're going to talk a little bit about the project budget and schedule, which is very important, and also a parking summary, because that was one of the issues that has been instrumental and also very important to the community. Obviously, the purpose of these projects is really neighborhood improvements, and everybody knows that flooding is a major issue. The photographs that you see here, one 2022, the other 3, that rain bomb we experienced back November 15th of 2023, clearly show that there is a significant flooding issue in this area. So as far as the project schedule, this project started back in 2016. The fall of 2016, the genesis of this project started. Just want to point out that between 2016 and 2021, over 40 community meetings, one-on-one meetings have been held with members of the community. In 2021, we hired the current consultant, Jacobs, to start the design process. We had a public meeting in November of 2022, and then due to the change in cost and the significant change, because the original cost was pre-COVID, significant change in cost, we did a hard stop. We made a pledge to the community we were going to make a hard stop at 60%. We hired an independent consultant to take a look at the cost estimate to determine if there were differences, what the differences were, and not only that, but also determine give us a path forward in terms of constructability. If we had to stage the project because of funding issues, how could we best deliver this project? So here we are in April, and that's where we're coming to you today. And then moving forward, obviously, we would go back to the community at 60%, 90%, and then finally to fruition of the final design and construction. Sorry about that. So the project is really it is providing the overall system for the South Point neighborhood. The project consists of improvements to provide a major pump station just offset from the intersection of Washington and First. It also includes infrastructure improvements of water and sewer, and includes reconstruction of First Street and some road raising, averaging about 1.5 to 2 feet. Some of the other improvements would be to add wells along Washington and alternate at later phases for water quality purposes that would be integrated into this. I should point out that this pump station that's going to be put in place will be the pump station for the entire South Point neighborhood. So once it's in the ground, that will serve as the infrastructure for the future. The rendering you see up there is the photograph on the top is basically the existing configuration. If you're familiar with First Street, there is a median along First Street between Washington and Alton.
Joe, I'm sorry, the white part is First Street, or the
the
part
top,
below that?
The strip on top is.
And what is the white part?
It's just a divider between the separate pictures. So
okay.
the bottom is the configuration as proposed, as originally approved by the commission back in 2021, which is to provide a valet area on one side and parking on the other, parallel parking, and then removing the median. That's the typical section that was approved by the commission in 2021. This shows you the basic location of the pump station. The pump station will be offset. As you can see, where the dashed lines are is where the pump station would be underground, and then the electrical equipment would be right offset in that parking lot that is currently owned by the city of Miami Beach. The renderings that you see on the right are the screening renderings that they are team developed that were well received by the community to show how we would be able to screen the equipment from the community.
So that pump station, that is what, just, if you can go back to that
Yes,
last
sir.
shot, that is what, on that, what is currently a surface lot east of
That would
Milos?
Be, yeah, that would be the electrical equipment, all the equipment to be able to run the pump station. The actual pump station itself is that white dash box that you see right adjacent to where the electrical equipment is, and that'll
Yeah.
be underground.
I'm just thinking of the placement. That's south of the Milos restaurant, right?
Yes, sir.
East, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yep.
east.
I said that the first time.
Okay. This map, what we call a heat map, essentially shows, this is based on the storm that was modeled August of 2017. That was the storm that was so significant that the city went ahead by resolution and changed the level of service from a 5-year 24-hour storm to a 10-year 24-hour storm. So the heat map that you see to the left is, if you do nothing, that's exactly the flooding that occurs during that type of storm. If we implement the project as approved by the commission in 2021, you'll see that there is significant improvement. There is still some areas that would not be improved. And then once the entire South Point neighborhood improvement program is done, then you'll see the one to the right. All the areas are completely taken care of by the pump station.
And Joe, what was the result or impact of that storm in 2017? Were there homes that were flooded, stores?
Yes, it was significant because it was a major rainstorm, to the point that the city went ahead in October of that year adopted a resolution that changed the level of service from a 5-year 24-hour storm.
Right. No, I get that part, but tell me what it was like during that storm. What happened?
I wasn't here, but the photographs I've seen are pretty incredible. Flooding significant. And Jason, you were
Actually,
here.
I can tell you, I live at First and Alton for about 10 years at the yacht club. It was very bad. It was when we have rain events now, there is a lot of flooding in that area, but this was quite extreme. It was not only the streets over in the medians into the sidewalks. You know, Wyatt Building is higher because it was built for future road raising, but it was almost catastrophic. It was, and it's probably why, you know, hearing Joe speak about why the city, you know, spurred into real action here. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so getting on to the phases of the project. So the 4 phases. Phase 1 is the construction of the pump station and the outfall, the associated outfall that would go all the way out to the bay and discharge in Government Cut. Phase 2 is the actual construction of First Street, reconstruction of First Street. Phases 3 and 4 would be Alton Road and Washington Avenue, respectively. We've broken down, and this is based on the independent cost estimate that our consultant did, based on the current costs. The Phase 1, which is obviously the big ticket item, it's the most expensive. The pump station, the force main, and the outfall and the dissipator is $80 million. Phase 2, the construction of First Street itself, with the improvements, above ground improvements and everything, is $24 million. Phase 3, which would be Washington Avenue, would be $34 million, and Phase 4, $40 million. The total project cost, as conceived again and approved by the commission in 2021, is $178 million, all in with everything.
And I hope you're okay with this, just kind of back and forth, and my colleagues feel free to do the same. You don't have to go through the chair. We're all friends here. How high is First Street being raised?
About the average about anywhere between 1.5 feet to 2 feet.
And how high was Sunset Harbor raised?
Believe a little bit higher, about maybe 2.5 feet. In some cases, the difference between Sunset Harbor, and I want to point that out, and First Street is, in Sunset Harbor, the buildings are pretty much at the back of sidewalk. So the elevation difference becomes dramatic, and that's why you have the ramps and all that. Here, because we're removing the median, and then we're harmonizing outward, the the elevation difference will be more gradual. So you're not going to have that offset difference that you see in Sunset Harbor.
Because I guess there's, I'm trying to think, there's actually retail there, at least 2, maybe 3 lots that are already underground, right? Is this going to cause outflow into those restaurants? Because I've heard stories in Sunset Harbor where some of those slots can't even get insurance because they're now considered as a basement because they're actually below street grade.
I've heard that too, and I'm not really sure if that is accurate. Amy, thank you. Amy Knowles, our Chief Resiliency Officer, she can address that because that's come up before.
Hi, Amy, welcome.
Yes, hi, good afternoon, everyone. So that particular item actually isn't true. There was a Miami Herald article and a headline
Yep.
that led a lot of people to think that. There was a flood claim that was denied for one of the residents because the insurance inspector kind of didn't understand what was happening in the neighborhood. And so the claim was eventually paid. And I just know this because I had happened to handle it at the time. A forensic engineering team went out to document all of this, and we tried to assist that restaurant as much as possible. So no businesses or homes that we're aware of are being denied insurance because of any neighborhood improvement projects. That's not even a criteria used in flood insurance, and elevation is considered a proxy for flooding. So the more that you elevate, the lower you reduce risk.
Okay, thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you.
And Joe,
Yes, sir.
if we could just talk about the timelines for each of the phases.
Okay, excellent. So phase 1, which is again the largest of all the 4 phases, that the construction schedule that's been developed approximately 17 months. Phase 2, which is the
And when would that be scheduled to start? I mean, I guess a lot of that's pending on us, but.
I mean, there's a funding gap of $89 million, so.
Yeah, but we just passed the thing to,
Oh, yes.
that wasn't,
The dollar parking?
the dollar parking will cover this, right?
If I
No,
I'll
the
speak quickly on
bond thing?
the funding gap there. No, the $85 million was for other critical needs projects.
Oh.
The neighborhood
Yes.
improvement projects are not part of that. They'll be
Right.
a separate. But that 89.5, there's a large grant application for over $60 million that
Yes.
is in. Keeping our fingers crossed, light a candle, say a prayer, because obviously that would get us dramatically there, and then that shorter amount. But either way, that would be mostly made up through water, sewer, and stormwater bonds in the future.
Okay, and the grant application is to?
To the Federal Highway Administration. It's called a Protect Grant.
Yes.
And it was submitted August of last year, and we're expecting the results of that sometime August of this year.
Okay.
And how about the business disruption during phase 2? Somewhat self-serving, because each Valentine's I take my daughter to Fogo de Chao, but I don't want to miss a Valentine.
That is a big concern. I have to say, thank you for,
No, I mean,
thank you
I
for
say that
mentioning
in
that,
jest,
Mr. Chair, because, the project is important. We want to make sure that, our community remains insurable, and that, no area of our city ever gets red tagged or anything like that. But by the same notion, this is a very successful area for our city. And we have to be very mindful of the impact that this could have to businesses that are the quality of businesses we want to see flourish in our city and see them expand in our city. And so, how do we minimize the impacts and streamline the construction period, especially in phase 2?
Thank you, Commissioner. And again, I completely understand construction is extremely disruptive, and I don't want to sugarcoat it, but I think we can take appropriate measures to try to minimize in terms of how much of the street will be open at any given time because we are putting large pipes in the ground as well as raising the road, so that does take time. But I think we can do it in such a way. It's been done successfully before in other projects. Not only here in Miami Beach, but in other municipalities where construction can be staged in such a way that it would minimize that.
And how long is that time frame? I mean, I'm thinking back to West Avenue in phase 1, and we saw a neighborhood pizza shop go out of business. And here we have some of the most destination-driven restaurants in our entire
I mean, let's just say
area.
Milo's. I mean,
Yeah,
do we
Milo's,
really want
Papi's,
to
yeah.
lose, something like Milo's or some of these other places that have been opening up?
We can work, and we will work very closely as we finalize the construction plans to provide sequencing of how much of the street. There's a thing called stage construction where you do, you limit it to a certain number of feet before you open up the next section and you have to finish up. So I think we can work through that sequentially. But again, I don't want to mislead anyone. Construction is disruptive, and it's, once you start opening the ground, that's gonna happen.
Are we looking at 24 months for that?
For phase 1 and 2, the total time is 24 months.
But they won't overlap, right? We'll do.
No. The pump station work is pretty much isolated first because it's off the intersection of Washington and First, and then the outfall. So that one is the big ticket item. Once that work, phase 1 work is complete, then we would move into the phase 2, which is First Street proper.
Which would be about 7 months then? if phase
Right now,
one was
they're
17?
estimating 6 to 7 months, right,
Okay.
exactly. So, like, as Jason said, we've got the grant that we've applied for. Right now, the total funding available to us is $81.4 million, and that consists of two grants that we received, a $20 million grant and a $15 million grant from the Florida Resiliency Grant Program, and $5 million in GEO bond for the above-ground improvements. So right now, our total available funding is $81.4 million. So let me move on to address the parking issue, because I know that is a
big part of it.
Yes. So one of the concerns raised by the community was as originally conceived, as approved in 2021, the parking, we were going to take out the median and provide parallel parking on both sides. In doing that, the loss of parking, so we would go from existing 85 spaces to 48 spaces. So our team went back and came up with a different, an option. And that option is to provide diagonal parking in lieu of the parallel parking. If we do that, if we provide diagonal parking both on First Street and on Jefferson, we would regain, so we would only lose less than 10%. We would go from existing 85 to 77 spaces. And that diagonal parking also offers some areas, because you're gonna have to have islands in between to divide some of the diagonal parking, so you would gain some additional green area as well.
And Joe, what phase is that? Are those spots only lost if we do the project in aggregate, or those are lost off the bat?
That's pretty much off the bat in phase 1 and 2, because that's really where the parking impact is, right on First Street and Jeff.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
So what we're recommending to you, and I know we've heard the community, we've met with them, and we understand, I mean, as a Public Works, I would love to be able to do the project exactly as originally approved by the commission in 2021, but I'm a realist also, and I need to get infrastructure in the ground to improve our residents' lives. So I believe that the best course of action right now is to move with phases 1 and 2, and go with the diagonal parking option, which reduces the parking loss to less than 10%. And that's what we're hoping we can get a favorable recommendation to move forward to the full commission.
I'm gonna have to get a better understanding of the fate of the timing. How much of First Street are we going to be impacting? Clearly, I mean, let me just preface it. We need to work on the infrastructure. We have to do this infrastructure project. We need this resiliency project. So we certainly need to move forward. We can't move forward an infrastructure project while moving our city, a successful part of our city, backwards. And so I'm gonna, as we move forward and as we hear this at commission, Joe, please come well prepared to let us know on the business impacts,
yes, sir,
the timing, the stretches, and the longest, how much the stretches, how you're gonna phase it out,
segments,
how
right.
the segments, how big are they going to be, and how long are they going to be at any given time? to minimize impacts, the timing and queuing of it to maybe align with low season when we impact certain these more commercial areas, so that to the extent possible, we minimize as much of the impacts to this very successful commercial corridor in our city. That to me is just as important as doing this project. You know, thank you for finding ways to minimize the parking impacts. That was one of the big concerns I was receiving, there's still going to be a parking impact, but you've really addressed it significantly. So for now, I mean, those are my two
Thank you, Commissioner.
points.
Yeah, I think I agree, lock in step with that. I'm not going to hold this up in committee. It's a critical infrastructure project. Would like to see it move forward. I understand that there's been a huge number of community meetings, but if we're getting to mission critical here, where we're going to be the ones ultimately responsible for moving this forward, I'd like us to be included in those. I know individually, some of us have met with the neighborhood associations, but I don't want to find ourselves in a position like with West Avenue, where we start taking a step forward and then a boogeyman appears behind a corner and then we have to address it. Let's truly get all things out there. So those restaurants, let's get them included in this discussion, because I'd rather do it now rather than we put a shovel in the ground and all of a sudden then we sit there and realize what we're doing and we need to get feedback. So I'm happy to move this forward in committee. It's not somehow giving my unwavering support to moving lockstep with the program.
No.
Yeah.
We're just moving the process.
Yeah.
And one of the other things is that I'd ask is, you know, let's make sure that before we get to commission, please meet with SOFNA.
And as a matter of fact, Commissioner, we have a meeting scheduled with SOFNA. I believe it's next Thursday. They've invited me to make the same presentation.
Okay, great. And also, I mean, any outreach. I think it's important for the businesses to know that this is being discussed.
Yes.
And for them to know that this is, you know, very likely to move forward as a critical piece of infrastructure. And so then for them to have that understanding so that they can give us their feedback as to queuing and timing, and you can present to them, you know, what is being proposed as to the amount of time that the impacts are going to be on First Street by segment.
And Joe, this doesn't extend to South Point Drive. This is
No,
just
sir. South Point Drive is not part of this. That's
Okay.
correct.
Yeah, and, you know, I know SOFN is going to have a full agenda where they're going to want to move on. Perhaps what we do, I don't want to use like four-letter words here, so I don't know, like a special meeting. I know we've had our fair share, but maybe SOFNA can arrange it, so specifically dedicated to this project where all of the commissioners are there, we're able to communicate in the sunshine, but it's specifically dedicated to the First Street project.
Absolutely.
So if I can, I think for the record is the motion would be to move the commission with a favorable recommendation to proceed as presented. And obviously staff has heard some requests, including that when it does go to commission, some additional detail on a specific items.
I think we need to make sure we are reaching out to the chair's point. We don't want to find ourselves in a WAFNA situation where the project has been delayed for years and now we're having to engage in dispute resolution that, you know, there may be millions of dollars and whatever. So we want to avoid those types of delays, and the only way we really avoid that is by engaging in very proactive communication, as not only with the residents but with the business community there. So, yeah, make sure we engage.
Does you know who made the motion? Who made the second?
Well, I'd like to get some public input. Matthew, thank you always for your activism and involvement in the city. I think we might, Rick, you mentioned we might have somebody online. Yep.
We do.
Hey, Matthew.
Okay. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Matthew Goltanoff, and I actually live on First Street. So this is an extremely important project for myself, for my family, for my neighbors, and the whole entire neighborhood and community. You probably won't find a bigger proponent, supporter of this project than myself. Some of those pictures that were on the presentation actually were ones that I went out wearing knee-high boots with water nearly up to the top of those to take these pictures to
Did you
document.
have those already, or just for this?
Well, it rains a lot in Miami Beach.
Got it.
So, what I will say, though, is that I have a lot of concern about this new option that was just revealed today to do angled parking. I've been here the whole entire meeting, so I understand the topic of parking came up a lot in North Beach. It's extremely valuable and scarce. A lot of the buildings, residential buildings there are older. They don't have parking. The South of Fifth neighborhood's a lot different. These are new buildings. They have large parking structures at the base, and all of the buildings that are surrounding the First Street area have significant off-street parking because there were really so my point is that the design that was agreed upon by the community back in 2020 and then approved by the City Commission in 2021, it had 65% community support versus 30% against it. So it had significant support. And we're talking hundreds of people who responded to this survey. And the point of it was to promote green space and resiliency and making it a more livable, walkable community. So angled parking, especially as presented by this diagram, would take out a large portion of that green space, and it'd be directly adjacent to a residential building, one that I live in, one that hundreds of people live in. So I have a lot of concerns about this, and if it is endorsed, it is a really significant change. And even though many people support it, this could lead you down that WABNA route, which no one wants to see. So I ask you to tread carefully with this and really think about it deeply. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Matthew. Just getting involved in this, obviously, I've, from an arm's length, followed these meetings over the past 8 years. I want to move this forward, but in no way is this some sort of total endorsement of the project. So, of course, I need to hear from people.
And the endorsement is to reach out to SOFNA, to reach out to the businesses, to get input before we go back to commission. That is the endorsement.
And Keith Marks is a good friend of mine. We've been working together a lot recently on things, but I just want to stress a lot of the leadership of SOFNA who are involved in this project now, they don't live directly adjacent to First Street, so sometimes we just have to keep that particular point in mind. Thank you.
PJ, could you please let Representative Grieco on?
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon,
You guys hear me
Mr.
okay?
Representative.
Okay, there we go.
Welcome.
Hey, guys. So speaking of someone who actually lives on First Street as well, Matt and I live in the same building. For the record, Michael Grieco, former state rep, former commissioner, and South of Fifth resident. Want to let you guys know, just reminding you the history of this. 8 years, 40 public meetings, $7 million of design costs already sunk into this project. Up till now, I would describe this as a failure of government because nothing's gotten done. And you guys now have the opportunity to move this forward. And I'm starting to hear about, oh, we need to go back to the community and this and that. At a certain point, as representatives of the community, you need to move forward on these projects and show a commitment to resiliency and to capital improvement projects. And I know I've spoken to all of you individually and you're all committed to that, but we need to move this project forward. The reason being, as you can see, it's essentially tripled in cost because nobody wants to do anything. And everybody's already spoken to the businesses. Everybody's spoken to every gadfly in the community. SOFNA has been talked to about 85 times to the point where the people that were originally on SOFNA don't even live in the neighborhood anymore. And it is time to move forward on the project. Delays are just going to make it more expensive. And I appreciate you guys moving it forward, but please don't get stuck in the mud on this, in the details. This is what staff is for. We're at 60%. And as a resident, as somebody who has more money invested in my home than anything else, I can tell you that this project is not just wanted, it's needed. So again, thank you guys for your commitment, and I look forward to that recommendation and then it moving forward at the next commission meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Representative. Input is always welcomed and valued. Joe, quick question. Phase 1 seems a lot further along and perhaps less controversial than Phase 2. are we able to move forward with kind of, I'm not signing off on that, but is that something where it's like, you know what, we're pretty close to shovels in the ground there, and that's
a good
going
point,
to.
because that way you don't hold that up.
Right.
While we figure out and iron out other phases.
The issue, Mr. Chair, is that if we build phase one, it does really nothing, because we're putting the pump station in the outfall, but we're not connecting the drainage system. So, at least, we've got to be able to do First Street in order to start to relieve the flooding.
Helpful feedback. Appreciate it. Colleagues?
I think we had a motion and a second.
The only thing I added to the motion after Commissioner Fernandez was just about doing additional public outreach. I would just need to know who technically made the motion and who
Well,
seconded.
I think it was like the recommendation of all of us. I think, you know,
All
correct me if
for
I'm
one,
wrong, we
one
all
for all.
want the public outreach, right? It's not
I'll
just me.
make the motion.
Okay.
Somebody can second it.
Yeah, I'll second, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Joe. Very informative.
We'll show it past 3-0. I think that's adjourned.
And meeting adjourned. Thank you all. Thank you to staff. Thank you for everybody who was a part.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice weekend.